Welcome back to Chronos, the channel that explores alternate universes and asks the question, what if? Today, we continue our journey in the world of superheroes and ask the question, what if Deku became Saitama? In part 2, we witness the birth of the people's hero as Deku rises to become a symbol of hope and inspiration for all those in need. Chapter 5-1. Izuku was happy, really happy. He was in a really good place in his life. His new friendship with Momo was going great. It's been 5 months since they met and they never went a week without calling or texting each other. On weekends Izuku would go to her house for training or sometimes just to hang out. Izuku even introduced Momo to parkour. His morning runs can get pretty repetitive even if he takes several different routes. Adding parkour adds a new level of difficulty and excitement. These runs were always so much fun, just the two of them jumping from roof to roof, joking and competing with each other. He really enjoyed spending time with Momo and just being around her. She had become a good friend to him, even more so by the fact that though she was shocked at first, she didn't care whatsoever that he was quirkless, which he couldn't express how much that meant to him. Izuku had also sent in his U.A application far ahead of time, so it was one less thing to worry about. He was certain he would get in. His grades were the best in his year next to Taku, so he wasn't too worried about the written portion of the test. Every week he gets stronger and faster, and his control over his incredible strength improves. His masters continue to put him through the ringer and the results speak for themselves. His spars with both of them are the best thing he could ask for as they hone his skills to a fine precision. After seeing Michiko train Momo in the sword, he was interested in learning basic swordsmanship, however not in the typical way. He had long since learned how to use chops to slice clean through paper, wood and even rock as if his hand were a blade. Using his hands as blades, he invented a new style which he dubbed the III sword. Classes at Aldera Junior High were wrapping up for the day and students were preparing to leave. Izuku finds Taku down the hall towards the exit talking with a girl, Mutsumi Akiyoshi. She was a cute girl with long brown hair with bangs covering her forehead and brown eyes. She was in the same year as them but in a different class, and it was common knowledge she had a crush on Taku. When the Greynet saw him, he turned from his girl. Hey Izu, off to see your girl? Come on Taku, you know she's just a good friend, not my girl. And to answer your question, no. I have to head home first, then I'm going to the dojo. Okay then. Hey, you want to go for a flight this weekend? I made some improvements to the tornado. Taku asked, excited to show his friend. Sure, we can do it this Saturday, but after my training. Izuku replied. Mutsumi, hearing this whole exchange, decided to speak up. Wait, what do you mean by flight? Does your family have a private plane or something? She asked, genuinely curious. Taku looked back at her with a dull face. Well, obviously we have a private plane, but I'm talking about my personally made plane. It's called the Tornado, he said with pride. The brunette looked at him with a pouty face. And when were you going to tell me this or offer me a flight? When I felt like it, he said and smiled sarcastically. The girl started to playfully hit him for this remark. Izuku could only smile at this madness before taking off. Talk to you later, Taku. Izuku had to head back home to grab something before heading to the dojo. Just before his classes ended, he got a text from his mother telling him he got a letter from U.A in the mail. He wasn't sure what it could be about, but he was anxious to get home and check it out, then head to the dojo. Arriving home, he found his mother in the living room watching TV drinking tea. Welcome home, sweetie. I left your letter on the table with the rest of the mail, she stated happily. Thanks Mom, I'll check this out, then I'm going to the dojo. He picked up the U.A letter amongst the mail and went to his room and closed the door behind him. Okay, let's see what this is. After fiddling with the paper for a moment, he was finally able to open it and pulled out the letter and began to read it. His heart sank with every line. Dear Mr. Midoriya, we have received your application for the hero course at U.A High School. While we are very impressed at your academic achievements, we are sad to inform you that we do not feel it would be in the best interest of yourself or our institution for you to pursue the hero course. You are more than welcome to apply for our general studies department, in which we are certain that you will excel, but with your quirkless status, it would not be prudent for you to take our entrance exam. I'm sure that this must be upsetting, but we must consider the health and safety of all of our applicants. You are an amazing student and you will succeed in any career you choose, but unfortunately heroics isn't one of them. We wish you nothing but the best. Sincerely, Principal Nizu. Izuku put the letter down on his desk and just sat in the room with a numb expression, his head lowered, his mouth slightly opened, and the look in his eyes was one of pain. The memories of the past 7 years came flooding in, the day he met his masters, all the hours he put in to learn his disciplines, all the times he kept pushing himself despite the agony of every day, the cracking of his bones and the coughing of blood, and him leveling a wood with a single punch. He also remembered all the times his peers had mocked him for his dream, all the laughing, all the insults, and him smiling through it all because they could never make him doubt himself or his dream. Then he remembered meeting All Might. The world of heroics is very dangerous, and without a quirk of your own I don't think it would be best for you to be it. You should look for another career path. And now he is dealing with this. Once again his dreams are being denied and stomped in the dirt by the same school he has spent all these years training to go to, because according to them he and his effort will never be good enough. Still sitting in the silence of his room, all of his thoughts came to a head when a single tear slid down his right cheek, and then another came down his left. Why, does it always have to be like this? Why, does everyone always have to be like this? He said in a shallow voice. I'm quirkless, I'll never have the power that others do. I know that, they don't think I know that. I worked so hard, and come so far, but they're not even gonna give me a chance to try. This superhuman society, I know I'm not a part of it and I'll never be, but I can still help people, I can still use my skills for others, I can still be a hero. There was a knock on the door and Inko let herself in. Everything okay, Izuku? She asked, but immediately paused upon seeing her son's tears. What's wrong? Her son didn't answer, only handing her the letter that just wrecked him. She read the letter and had tears of her own when she finished. She pulled her son into a hug. I'm so sorry, Izuku. It's okay, Mom, he said in a shallow voice as he welcomed her hug. The two stayed like this for about a minute before they separated. What are you gonna do now? Inko asked. I'm not sure, I guess I'll have to apply somewhere else, but I have to get to the dojo, he said before putting the letter in his pocket and heading to the door. I'm here for you if you need anything, the mother said. I know, Mom, thank you, I'll be back later. Izuku dragged his feet all the way to the dojo, his rejection weighing heavily on his mind. He walks in to find Michiko on the far end of the property practicing sword swings. While he would prefer to talk to Keizo in a moment like this, but he was busy training other students on the other side and he just really needed the guidance of one of his masters. Michiko was standing in front of a wooden post in a Batajutsu stance. She swung her sword and in the span of 1 full second performed 100 slashes, disintegrating the post and sheathing her sword. She looks to see her favorite student approaching her with a numb expression and eyes that screamed sadness and hurt. What's wrong, Izuku? She asked, her eyes meeting his with concern. The boy let out a sigh. It looks like I won't be headed to Udade after all, Master. The brunette raised an eyebrow at his words. And why not? Blatant discrimination it looks like. He ended this statement by handing her the letter. She takes it and reads it, her face shifting to one of anger upon finishing it. Those hypocritical bastards. How dare they? Looking out for you and the institution is a bunch of crap, plus ultra my ass. You know what, Izuku, wait right here, I'll be back in an hour. She finished and walked to the dojo and walked back out with a carrying bag for her sword and put it in. This snaps the boy out of his depressed state. Wait, Master, where are you going? He asked, slightly horrified about what she might do. I am off to cut the Udada faculty for this level of disrespect. Wanna come? The Greenette was now terrified for all of the Udada staff. Wait, I'm sad about this, but you can't kill them. Please stop. The boy begged. This isn't just about you, Izuku. They insulted you and by extension us. Who the hell are they to say your effort will never be good enough when we're the ones who trained you? Don't worry, I promise it will be painless, she said as she started to walk to the front gate. The Greenette was visibly scared for what his master was about to do, so he did the only rational thing he could do. He grabbed his sensei by the waist and picked her up. What? Put me down, Izuku, they're gonna pay. She screamed as Izuku carried her to Keizo, who was just finishing his class. And what fresh madness is this? He asked jokingly at his sister, trying to free herself from the grasp of his best student. Master, please help me, Izuku begged. After finally managing to calm his sister down, all three are sitting in the main house living room. So now does one of you want to give me the full story of why you wanted to kill the faculty at Udade? He said in a stern voice. Izuku was the one to step up and handed him the letter that set his sister off. Taking it and reading, Keizo's normally warm, pleasant expression clearly changed to one of anger. I see, so you've basically been barred from taking the entrance exams because of your lack of a quirk. Izuku nodded. Yes, master, and you were going to punish them because of this, he said, looking at his currently mopping sister. Keizo takes a deep breath before speaking again. Normally this would have the making of a good lawsuit, but UA is a special school, so technically they can do this. It must hurt to be singled out like this once again, Izuku, especially from your dream school. Yeah, this hurts, a lot. I worked so hard. I know I can do it, but they're not gonna let me try because they say I'll never be good enough. I've gone plus ultra every day for 8 years, but that doesn't matter because I can't show that, can I? It's so frustrating. All I want is to help people. I want them to feel safe because I did something good for them. But, as far as this world built on quirks is concerned, someone like me is useless. He looks up at Keizo, trying to fight back his tears. Master, what should I do? Keizo and Michiko both looked at their hurt disciple, the look in his eyes and his question very reminiscent of when he asked Michiko to train him. Keizo, while normally always having a response and a pillar of wisdom and confidence for his student, had no easy answer. Izuku's dream was out of his reach, and it wasn't his fault. He couldn't tell him to give up on it after he had worked so hard. He also knew firsthand just how painful even the thought of giving up on your dreams can be, and to actually give up is a pain worse than death. Izuku, I don't have a clear answer for you. But, you need to make a decision. The brunette locked eyes with his master. So you're saying I should give up on my dream? He asked, scared of the answer. I didn't say that. If you give up on your dream you'll experience pain far greater than you do now. You should take some time and think about what you'll do next. I suggest finding something to take your mind off heroics. Try getting involved in community service or taking on a personal project. Like what? This time it was Michiko who perked up. Hey, how about you clean Dagoba Municipal Beach? The place used to be beautiful back in the day, but now it's an illegal trash dump. It would make for some good light training and you'd be doing something good for the community. Keizo raised a finger to his chin at his sister's words. I like that. It's definitely a good idea. See if cleaning the beach will give you some clarity. Izuku took in his master's advice, once again grateful for all that they have been to him. Thank you, masters. I'll go over there after training today. Michiko smiled at him before jumping up. All right. Let's go, kiddo. Let's get you stronger and blow off some steam. After training that day at around sunset, Izuku was at the beach, and just as his master said, this place was a dump. It would almost certainly be beautiful if you got rid of the trash. There were TVs, washing machines, refrigerators, and even whole cars out here. Taking a look at the mountains of trash that litters the beach, he got to work. He started by picking up huge piles and taking them to the front for the garbage company to pick it up. For some of the larger things he would just crush them, which was incredibly easy. After an hour it had gotten dark and he decided to call it a day, leaving a huge pile of trash to be picked up, walking back home through the dark streets of the city. He walks along thinking about the events of today. Cleaning the beach hadn't helped him to find direction, but it was only the first day. He wanted to tell Taku about all this, but some things are better said in person, and whatever he chose to do he was certain Taku would have his back. There aren't too many people walking around, and he doesn't see any heroes around. There was a brown-haired woman walking in front of him, and he was brought out of his thoughts when she suddenly rose off the ground and was violently pulled into an alley by an invisible force. What the? Was Izuku's only thought before rushing to look down the alley. He sees the woman still off the ground, pinned against a wall, and a man wearing a black face mask and a jacket with an object he quickly registered as a knife in his left hand, about to stab her. He pulls his arm back, and on pure impulse Izuku bursts down the alley, grabbing the man's arm in mid-thrust. What do you think you're doing? The teenage boy demanded. The man was clearly shocked that someone else had arrived so fast and had such a bone-breaking grip. The boy's interference made him drop the woman, making him mad. So you came to play too, kid? He ended these words by dropping the knife and making a gesture with his right ring and index finger, and the knife came flying diagonally at the boy's face. The teen let go of his arm, jumping back to avoid the knife, but the knife stops in mid-air and comes flying down at the boy. It was too slow, and Izuku merely cocked his head to the left with the blade missing him again, but he noticed the blade attempting to flank him. But to the shock of the attacker, he grabbed the knife at the blade and with a gentle squeeze shattered it. What the hell? Your quirk an arm enhancer or something? The man asked. My quirk isn't the issue here. Why are you doing this? Izuku demanded again. The man looked at the teen with a sinister grin. I'm playing a game. A game! He exclaimed, shocked and becoming angry. Yep, it's my favorite game. I snatch the first person I see and stab him. Looks like today I got 2 for the price of 1. He said, clearly excited. Hearing his words, Izuku remembers a news report he saw a few days ago about several people who had been severely stabbed multiple times over the past few weeks. One of them even died. You're the serial stabber. The man smiled at hearing this. So you've heard of me? Does that mean I'm becoming famous? Izuku gets in his stance. Well, fame is going to be short-lived because this is as far as you go. Okay kid, game on. After this declaration he made gestures with his hands and 6 concealed knives came from his jacket and levitated around him. With one gesture from his hands all the knives came flying at Izuku at speed most would consider fast, but not too fast for his eyes as he skillfully dodged and deflected the knives that came at him. His training with Michiko had long since taught him to defend against a bladed weapon, and with his perfect Psychokin this was child's play. After a minute of perfectly defending against the onslaught he noticed the knives were slowing down, and when he swatted one away it took longer for it to come back. He could also see that the man was visibly stressed. Then his quirk nerdness began to analyze. He's slowing down. Maybe it's mental fatigue. Him having to control the movements of so many items has got to be mentally taxing. Let's test this out, he thought. Izuku swats away a knife aiming for his chest, then grabs the handle of one coming for the right side of his throat with his right hand and uses it to knock away 2 more knives. He shifts his body to the left to dodge one that was about to pierce his left lower back and grabbing it as well. Using the 2 knives to easily knock away the other 4, he took this opening to throw one of the knives to the right side off the man's head, missing him on purpose but making him react. He jumped to the side and was met with Izuku in his face. The teen unleashed a dozen blurring punches to the stabber's face and chest, ending the barrage with an uppercut to the chin. Grabbing his arm and delivering a chop to the neck, he spins before pulling him over his shoulder and slamming him hard. Still holding his arm he bends it at the elbow, able to break it if need be. Cough, cough, came from the down stabber, the air clearly knocked out of him. What the hell just happened? He said through the pain and the struggle for air. You lost, it's over, Izuku said, turning to the woman who was crouched against a wall, both shock and fear clearly evident in her eyes. You okay now, miss? He said, giving her a warm assuring smile. A tear started to fall down her eye. Yes, thanks to you, she said, her thankful smile warming Izuku's heart. The boy nodded. Would you please call the police? I've got this handled. The woman nodded and then left to go do it, leaving the 2 males in the alley. So you want to tell me why you chose to hurt people in your free time? He didn't respond, only making a gesture with his free hand, and 2 knives came flying at Izuku. He looks up and sees the blades coming and punches the man in the face, knocking him out and the knives falling. So that's how it is. You just did this because you wanted to and for some reason it was fun. I hope you can learn and find a way to be a better person. The police and several heroes arrived about 5 minutes later. The stabber was taken into custody and both the woman and Izuku gave their statements. Despite the good deed he'd done, both the pros and police took the time out to lecture him about his reckless actions. That was a reckless stunt you pulled, kid, Death Arms said. You may have won, but you still could have been killed. You should have run to find the nearest hero, not rush to confront a murderer, said Kamui Woods. But there weren't any pros around. There wasn't any time to think or look for help. I saw someone in danger, so I helped them. How is that a problem? It's a problem because vigilantism is a crime, and we can't condone illegal quirk use, came the stern voice of a man in a brown trench coat and fedora. I am Detective Nail Mesa. I'm quirkless, sir. I don't have a quirk to break the law with, he said, looking at the 3 men, his words unflinching. The 3 men were all in shock from his words. The serial stabber they have been trying to catch for weeks was stopped by a quirkless boy. Well, that's all the more reason you shouldn't have gotten involved, said Death Arms in a bewildered tone. If I didn't, she may have died. I couldn't just leave it to chance when I was right there to help. So what if I'm quirkless? If someone needs help, you help them. Isn't that just natural? This time it was the detective that spoke up this time. Look, kid, you have a point, but we have laws in place and pro heroes trained and certified to handle situations like this. We cannot condone civilians taking the law into their own hands. Nothing wrong with being a good Samaritan, but you should leave it to the professionals. But what if no pro is around? What if the victim dies? What if the villain gets away and hurts more people? What does that say about you if you help someone and you don't? There are too many what-ifs, detective, and I don't need that on my conscience. I'm sorry. Naomasa let out a deep sigh. Look, kid, I hear where you're coming from, but we have to maintain law and order. We're going to overlook this time, just don't let it happen again. The detective finished. Walking back to his car, he decided to give the woman a ride back to her home, but not before she thanked her profusely. She then gave him a card for the cafe that she owned and asked him to swing by for some cake on the house. He also learned that her name was Nanomi Kaibara. The cops offered him a ride home, but he declined it. He needed to be alone with his thoughts. He saved her. He literally saved someone today. Sure, it may have been some back alley villain, but it was way too easy. He reacted quickly, stopped the villain with ease, and his smile made her feel safe. Just this afternoon he got a letter from his dream school saying he would never be good enough, that his effort was pointless. Well, he proved today that it wasn't. It was clearly more than enough. You can't be a hero without a quirk, a sentiment he has had to fight against ever since he was diagnosed as quirkless, a sentiment that UA agrees with, but that won't stop him. He was determined to be the hero he wanted to be. He just needed a chance to show that a quirk means nothing when you work hard. Since UA is off the table, I'll just have to apply somewhere else. I'll try Shiketsu. Its program rivals UA's, Ketsubutsu High and Isamu Academy. Surely one of them will let me in without a quirk. He smiled at his thoughts, optimism unwavering. 1 week later. Why? Was Izuku's only thought as he looked down at the 3 rejection letters on his desk that basically reiterate what the UA letter said. All of them saying that it wouldn't be in the best interest of the school or him to allow him to participate in the entrance exam. You can't be a hero without a quirk is apparently a sentiment shared by the Hero Academia itself, not just UA. He felt so good a week ago. He was able to use his skills to help someone, to save a life, and even though these schools say it's impossible, he knows it isn't. He knew this could happen, but still, his dream has constantly been stepped in the dirt and no one has ever cared how much that hurts, and he can't get a chance to attain his dream because they won't open the door. He decided that he needs some air, so he goes down to Dagoba Beach. He finished clearing all the trash yesterday and the beach was beautiful just as Michiko had said. He walks onto the sand. There aren't any people out here and he just takes in the sounds of the waves crashing on the shore. Just like the stream that ran through his training spot in the woods, the sound was very tranquil and it allowed him to clear his mind. His mind shows flashes of all pain that has come with him wanting to be a quirkless hero, the mockery of his peers, the rejection from All Might, and the rejection from the Hero Academia. All of these memories were making him mad, then one popped in that soothed him. His smiling face asking Nanami if she was okay after he pinned the stabber, and her thankful smiling face. I have to take my dream into my own hands. I will become the greatest hero I can possibly be, he said, ending this declaration by looking at his open right hand before making a fist. I can do this, I know I can, he said before getting into his stance and cocking back his fist. He throws a strong punch with the shockwave parting the ocean by at least 100 meters and creating walls of water that reached for the sky going far beyond the horizon. The greenette turned around, not bothering to wait and see the ocean come back to normal. He had made his decision and he needed to speak with his masters. He made it to the dojo and was sitting in the main house in front of his masters. So you've made up your mind about this? Keizo asked in a stern voice. Yes, master. The student responded. Well, I support you all the way, kiddo. Michiko chimed in, giving him an assuring smile. I'll be honest, Izuku, I don't fully support this decision. I understand that doing this may be the only way to realistically achieve your dream, but you're risking your future if this goes airy. I know, master, and I've considered that, but if I just throw away my dream without taking it with my own hands, I'll never get over it and it will haunt me forever. I'll be careful. I'm just asking you to trust and believe in me, he said, meeting the older man's eyes. Keizo couldn't help but smile and let out a little chuckle. What kind of question is that? If I didn't already trust and believe in you, you wouldn't be my disciple. While I don't fully support it, I have no doubt that you will use your strength on the right path, and as your master it's my responsibility to watch over and guide you on this path. Never forget, no matter how far you go, a student will always be a student. He finished with a warm, welcoming smile. Izuku raises his head and looks at both his masters. The memories of the past 8 years training together came flooding in his mind, from the day he started all the way up to this moment. Tears began to build in his eyes. Masters, thank you. His voice flowed with gratitude. So you really gonna do this? Like seriously? Asked an excited Takumi Fujiwara. Yes, this is the only way I can attain my dream. Izuku answered. Sweet, then let me help you out. How so? The brunette asked. Let me be your sidekick, but instead of fighting I handle the technical stuff. I can make you a bomb-ass suit and everything. The gray-haired boy exclaimed. I'm not sure I want you to get involved, Taku. I'm already going to be breaking the law. I don't want to see you drag in my mess. 1. You're not dragging me into anything. 2. You're my friend and I want to help you. And 3. The Hero Academia flat out discriminated against you. Aizu, you're a physical anomaly unlike anything this world built on quirks could have imagined. You're the kindest, most humble person I know and you want to use your gifts solely to help others. I want to see what you'll become. Will you let me? Izuku was shocked. He had no idea his friend had thought so highly of him. Ever since the day they met the two had always been cool towards each other. Though he was quirkless, Taku never changed on him even after discovering the crazy things he could do. Izuku even willingly went to Taku's house to do some tests and both Taku and his grandfather were both amazed by the quirkless anomaly. His bond with Taku was one that he deeply valued. Okay, you can be my sidekick / designer / techi. He said, giving his friend a warm smile. Yes, you won't regret this, bro. So do you have a costume design or? Izuku was walking up to the front door of Taku's family mansion after the guards at the front gate let him in. He rings the doorbell and in 10 seconds the door is open revealing his gray-haired friend. Welcome, bro. It's good that you came. Me and Grandpa finished your suit and I think you're gonna freaking love it. Hey mom, Aizu's here. I'm coming. Takumi, relax. Came the voice of his mother and renowned actress Megami Fujiwara. She was average height, had orange blonde hair, blue eyes and a curvy figure. Taku clearly took after his dad. They walked through the house to a hallway that only had one door. Taku types in some numbers on a keypad, then places a hand on a palm reader, then a little scanner pops out the wall which Taku puts his eyes to, then he goes to a mic, Fuji mode. The moment these words are accepted, 2 machine gun torrents drop from the ceiling with infrared beams pointed at Izuku. And guessed. After this the door opens up to reveal an elevator and all 3 hop in. Taku hits the bottom button and off they go. The elevator opens up to reveal a giant warehouse of a laboratory. All around there are experiments straight out of a science FIC, but the icing on the cake was a supercomputer straight down the way. Taku walks them to the left side of the lab that was darkly lit, where they could see a large glass display with several chairs and sitting one of those chairs was Taku's grandfather Chuntaro Fujiwara. He was tall, had gray hair that spiked back, and brown eyes with a confident smile. Welcome family, Midoriya. Glad you came to see my newest design. He said with pride. All 3 sit down in the chairs and all eyes are focused on the display. A door opens on the edge of the display and a mannequin comes out wearing a black cowl mask covering the face and neck only exposing the mouth and had white eyelids. A green jumpsuit with black lines going down the arms, legs and across the waist. There was a red belt and black gloves with red lines on them and black boots. So at first glance, what do you think? The elder Fujiwara asked. It came out even better than I hoped it would. Exclaimed an excited Izuku. Good to know, because I made this suit specifically for you. It's my first hero costume so I wanted to impress. He presses a button and the mannequin moved down the display and their chairs moved as well. The fabric is made of a special alloy I myself invented. It's very breathable and should provide maximum mobility. The display suddenly burst into a sea of flames. It can also withstand the heat of over 1000 degrees. The flames in the display died out with the suit unaffected, then machine gun torrents dropped down and pelted it with bullets. It's completely bulletproof and blade-proof. I was going to make it indestructible, but seeing as how you already are, virtually speaking, I figured it would be redundant so I skipped it. And it's machine washable. Most costumes aren't like that, so it's a new feature. He gave Izuku a prideful smile, clearly satisfied with his work. It's great, Mr. Fujiwara. This is way more than I asked for, thank you. The green boy exclaimed. Chuntaro only smiled. I'm glad you like it, but we're still not done yet. The most important feature, your mask. You want to take this one, Takumi? Sure, Grandpa. Listen up, Aizu. Your cowl, while bulletproof, comes with a special designed radio able to intercept police scanners and even the faintest of distress signals. That's going to be invaluable. Just you wait. It also comes with scanners able to spot human figures even through solid walls. It's like a combo of X-ray and infrared vision. The mask is durable and it will help you keep communications, especially when you have this. He ended this remark by handing Izuku a smartphone. This is a phone Grandpa and I, but mostly me personally built. Consider it your hero phone. It runs on our private server, so there is almost no chance of any calls being tracked. So when you take down a baddie or rescue someone, you can call the cops for clean-up duty without stress. And the final piece of the puzzle is this right here. This happens to be indestructible, Chuntaro said while holding up a thin, black rectangular smartwatch. Put this on whatever wrist you feel comfortable with. Izuku took the watch and put it on his right wrist. Okay, now what? Look for the folder labeled Dream, then hit the suit app, then press the button on the side. Izuku did just as he was told, and after hitting the button his body was enveloped in a green light. For a moment he felt naked with the exception of his underwear, but then it felt like he had clothes again. He was wearing the suit. Chuntaro was right, it really was breathable, it really put strong emphasis on his muscular body. Wow, this is amazing, Izuku said as he did some punches and kicks. I feel great in this, it feels like I'm wearing nothing at all, he said as he posed. I can see perfectly. I'm glad to see you like it, but you still can't leave here with it yet, said Megami. The boy looked at the women through his mesh lenses, raising an eyebrow. You have a secret identity now, Midoriya. Keeping that secret is gonna take more than just not saying anything, said the woman. She means you gotta disguise your voice, man. I actually asked her if she could help you with that because that would be an easy way to identify you. We could have just made your mask cover your whole face, but then people wouldn't see your smile. And who better to ask than one of the best actresses in the country? Taku stated. His mother smiled, happy to hear this praise. He's right, Midoriya, you must learn to disguise your voice. When you wear this suit you're essentially playing a role. Izuku nodded and accepted that they were right. He and Megami began different vocal exercises and Izuku went through several voices before he was certain of the voice he wanted. He wanted to sound strong, confident, smooth, and most of all brave and heroic. He and Megami practiced this for over an hour, and to the shock of everyone he got it down so quickly. He could speak and hold full conversations in his hero voice. He sounded like a real man with no trace of his typical tone or speech patterns. If you didn't know it was him behind the mask you really wouldn't know. Either Izuku was just really good at impressions or Megami was the world's greatest impressionist teacher. Pressing the button on the watch's body is enveloped in green once again and he's back in his regular clothes. Thank you all so much. I can't put into words just how much this means to me, he said, bowing to the Fujiwara family. If you want to thank us, do it by becoming a great hero, Chuntaro told the boy with a smile. Megami perked up, remembering she never asked before. What is your name, hero? Izuku raises his head, facing the family that had helped him so much, and are also a part of the small group of people that believe in him. My name is One. Chapter 6, A New Hero. It had gotten dark sooner than he had expected, but Izuku wasn't even the slightest bit nervous. If anything, he could barely contain his excitement. He had taken his dream into his own hands, and starting today he was going to be a hero. He was going to be everything he set out to be. All the training, all the studying, every skill he had acquired up to this point was for this singular goal. Though he knew technically he was an illegal hero or a vigilante, this was the only route someone like him could take to achieve his dream. He in all honesty wished it didn't have to be this way, but the world discriminates. It's not fair, and people can be terrible and lack understanding, so all he can do is change it a little at a time. The streets of Mustafa seemed quiet tonight. Izuku was walking around looking for action, an opportunity to put on his new suit. He didn't care what it was, stopping a carjacker, preventing a back alley stabbing or robbery. The hero One would make his debut on the first chance he got. One was going to be someone who helped others in any way he could. He would be someone who would be a hero in every sense of the word, and nothing would stop him from doing that. He was admittedly anxious for some action. He finally decided to duck off into a nearby alleyway. Finding a secluded spot, he opens the suit app on his smartwatch and presses the button. In one moment his body is enveloped by a green light, and after it fades he is in his costume. This feels awesome, he said as he flexed his right hand. This suit really sticks to me, but it doesn't feel tight. Crazy. He ended this by jumping to the roof of the building in front of him. Scouring over the city, he takes in the lights that illuminate in the nighttime. He takes a deep breath and smiles before taking off into a free run. He jumps from building to building showing off godly acrobatics. He continues on this run for about a minute before stopping on the ledge of a tall building to get a bird's eye view. It seems a little too quiet tonight. Guess I should have figured the day of a hero is relatively peaceful, he said with a light smile. His thoughts were cut short when he suddenly heard a loud explosion. Turning to his left, he could see that a large apartment complex had suddenly gone up in flames. Jumping from the building and using parkour, he took off toward the scene. He finally makes it to the scene, landing on the building right in front of the one on fire. The fire department had arrived and he could see a news helicopter flying overhead. The scene was intense. The apartment was 10 stories and it was clear that the first 5 floors were completely on fire, and it was spreading fast. No pros had arrived yet. There were over a dozen people sitting with the firefighters, which he could only assume were residences. He saw a man wearing a business suit watching the fire with horror. He decided to talk to him and find out what happened. Jumping off the ledge he was standing on, he runs over to the man. "Excuse me, sir, how did this happen?" he said in his hero voice. The horrified man turned around to see the hero standing behind him. "Who are you?" he asked in a worried voice. "A friend, and I'm here to help." "Now please tell me, how did this happen?" he asked, his voice confident and assuring. "It was a villain," he shrieked. "A villain?" Yes, it was just a calm, normal night when this blonde man walked in. Without any warning he suddenly burst into flames and started torching everything in sight. Was he a resident or a former employee? The hero asked. "No. Never seen him before today. I was able to make it outside and call 911, but that didn't stop him from setting every floor on fire. Some residents were able to avoid him and make it outside, but many were badly burned." Boom! Hearing the blast and looking up, Izuku could see a pillar of flames coming out the side of the building from what he could only assume was the 8th floor. "He's working fast. I have to get all the people out of the building before I deal with him," Izuku thought. "Do you know how many people are still trapped in the building?" he asked, his hero voice stern. This question brought the man back to reality. "We have 160 tenants. I happened to be checking the number of occupants in the building when the villain attacked. There are 22 that made it out and are being treated by the fire department. The EMS are en route, which leaves about 138 people still trapped in the building." The hero interrupted. "Okay, I understand the situation now. I'm going to get all the people out of the building, then I'll deal with the villain," he said as he took a couple steps toward the burning building. "Wait. You can't go alone. Shouldn't you wait for backup to arrive?" the manager asked out of worry. "There is no time to wait. I'm here and people need me." "Don't worry, everything will be okay." "Why?" "Because I got this," he said with confidence while giving a smile that considerably lowered the manager's worries. In a flash of speed he was gone, rushing into the building and activating the scanners in his cowl to look for any people in the sea of flames that was the first floor lobby. With his speed everything was moving in slow motion and he wasn't going to waste a single second or leave any stone unturned. After clearing the first and second floors and seeing that they were clear, he makes it to the 3rd floor and finds that there are people up here, but some of the 4th floor collapsed. A wall of fire, metal and rubble were blocking these people from getting to the stairs and a chance to make it down. Slamming a back fist into it and the obstacle was no more. Scanning the hall he breaks down the door of the fist unit on his left and finds a teenage girl around 13 huddled together with her siblings. They all at first were visibly relieved to see a hero. Scooping up all 3 and in a flash they were back outside, he gently handed them to the fire department and headed back upstairs. Not 10 seconds later he returns with a family of 5 on his back, and then a couple and their dog, and eventually all 30 people on the 3rd floor are outside safely. After finishing the 3rd floor he used the hole in the ceiling to conveniently jump to the 4th floor from the 3rd. His mask made finding people truly easy and the smoke and the heat of the inferno didn't bother him at all. He was able to find every person trapped on the 4th floor and get them outside. Those watching from the outside were amazed at what they were seeing. Every few seconds the green-clad hero would return with another load of people. He was moving so fast that you couldn't see him. A flash would come, gently drop a load of people to the newly arrived EMS and be right back with more. It was incredible. Almost everyone knows about All Might's debut, and this was looking very reminiscent of that. Izuku had just exited the inferno with 7 people on his back to clear out the 7th floor. He knew the villain was still somewhere on the 9th floor, but he had to avoid him for the time being to get all the tenants out before he dealt with him. He dropped off the injured people with the medics. He stopped to look around and he could see that the news team was on the ground and a male reporter was speaking into a mic while looking at a camera when, suddenly the camera pointed at him and the chopper lights fell on him. It was an issue for later. He had people to save. Checking his watch, and even he was shocked that he had only been at this for barely 4 minutes and he had already saved over 80 people. He was doing good, but the lower levels of the building are becoming structurally unsound. This building would collapse on top of itself if they don't get water in it. Using his scanner he could see the villain was heading back downstairs for some reason, leaving the 9th and 10th floors completely untouched. Making it to the inferno that was the 8th floor, he could see that several units were broken into and were on fire. He could see that there were people hiding in several and had a horrifying realization. He set the place ablaze just to keep the people from escaping, and now that most of the place is burning he wants to toss people into the fire. But he doesn't know that I've evacuated most of the people in the building though. I got to move fast. Entering the first burning unit to his right he could see 3 people huddled together hiding in a room to his left. He opens the door and finds Hashiga, Tensaki and a little girl at least 6 with black pigtails hiding in a bathroom. Immediately he was shocked at seeing the two, but he would never even consider being bitter in a time like this. "Are you 3 okay? Come with me, I'm going to get you out of here," he said in a strong, assuring tone. The 3 didn't argue. Holding the girl and Hashiga in both his arms and Tensaki on his back, the 4 left the inferno, and in seconds they were met with the cool breeze of the outside. He dropped them off with the medics and went back to work. One by one he gathered up all of the people trapped on the 8th floor. He made sure to check the ones that had been broken into and set on fire first. He hit a little snag when he had to save 3 people, 2 men and a woman who were badly burned when they tried to fight the villain after he kicked the door in. They all had serious 3rd-degree burns and all were conscious, so he had to be more gentle with this pair, but he got them to safety, safely. The 8th floor officially cleared and he sped up to the 9th. This floor wasn't on fire, but the floor was unstable because of the inferno beneath it, so he quickly and gently cleared it out, and he did the same with the 10th. Coming out of the blaze with his final load from the final floor, he could see that everyone he brought down either has been or was being treated. The police had arrived and Backdraft was talking to the firefighters. He knew he had to take down the villain or at least get him out before they could get water in this building. He handed the civilians to the medics and focused his attention on beating the villain that caused all this. He faced the inferno apartment prepared to enter and end this, but the light of the news chopper and the voice of the reporter behind him made him pause for a second. "It's him. That's the hero," the reporter said as his cameraman aimed his camera and the green-clad hero. "This hero saved over 130 people and it hasn't even been 10 minutes. This is normally something only All Might could do." "Just who are you?" the reporter on the ground exclaimed. In the news chopper, and female reporter speaks as the light shines on the young hero. "I have been watching this entire scene play out. The fire is apparently the work of a villain. The fire trapped many people on the upper levels, but this green flash of a hero has been bringing them out of the inferno with ease. Over 130 people were trapped and now they are all safe. However, the villain that started this is still at large in the inferno. The hero looks prepared to go back in and finish this. Can he do it? This reporter believes in him. Just seeing all this destruction and seeing his efforts, I can't help but make comparisons to All Might's debut. We will try to get the name of this hero soon." Back on the ground, Izuku was still standing in front of the blaze as he registered the reporter's words. He turned around to face the camera, flashing a big, confident smile, his hero voice shining through proudly as he spoke. "I'm a friend, and everything will be just fine. Why? Because I got this," he said with pride and confidence, his smile never wavering and giving a thumbs up to the camera on the ground and one to the helicopter. Everyone watching this from home was amazed by the words of this new hero. He was different but reminded many of All Might in a way. And in a flash he was gone back into the fire to face the villain. Izuku sped through the blaze, making his way to the villain. Using his scanner he was able to spot his form on the far end of the 6th floor and ran to confront him. When he gets to the 6th floor, everything is on fire. The ceiling, the walls, but most importantly every unit was broken in and was on fire. Watching his step as to not destabilize the already weak floor, he heads down the hall and makes it to the far end just in time to see a unit burst into flames, and out walks a slim, muscular man of above average height with long spiky blonde hair that defied gravity. "Where the hell Is everybody? He roared. While you were busy setting their home ablaze, I was busy getting every single person out of here. The fire villain looked at the hero in green and gave him a death glare. Why the hell did you do that? I went through all the trouble of trapping them in this wonderful blaze so I could watch them all burn in it, he said without the slightest shred of guilt. I figured that. That's why I worked fast and got everyone out. It's just you and me. He ended this sentence by getting into his stance. The arson villain merely chuckled. Typical hero, you're never any fun, he yelled as he fired a wave of flames at Izuku so strong they cover the hallway and blast a hole to the outside. The boy merely blocks the attack and he doesn't even feel it, and there isn't a single mark on his suit when the fire dissipates, much to the villain's surprise. He puts his hands together and prepares to fire another attack, but it's not going to happen. Izuku rushes him, forcing his hands apart, leaving him open and hitting him with a palm strike to the chin, then an elbow strike to the gut, followed by a flurry of punches to the chest. He tries to throw another flame attack, but the hero locks his hand between his own before grabbing his arm at the tricep, pulling him over his shoulder and throwing him down the hall. The villain rushes to his feet, but he doesn't see the hero down the hall. Turning around, he sees him landing a side flip, landing on his right foot. In the same motion, Izuku brings up his left foot for a strong kick to the villain's chest, sending him flying and making an impact crater in the wall at the other end of the hall. The villain fell out of the wall and landed on his face. What the hell? He said in a weak voice as he struggled to pick himself off the hot floor. The hero looked around and saw that the fire was getting worse and it was time to get both of them out, but as he approached the villain he saw him pulling what looked like a syringe from his pocket. I don't know who the hell you are, hero, but I'm about to turn you to ash, he roared as he shoved a syringe into his neck. His body violently convulsed for a few seconds before it stopped. The hero could only wonder what that drug was as he slowly began to get up off the floor. Oh yeah, that's the stuff, he yelled before cocking his arms back and launched a column of flames stronger than anything before. II sword, crescent slice. With one vertical chop the incoming flames are parted, not touching the hero but still flying through the hole behind him with a loud blast. It destabilized the end of the hall and made the ceiling collapse, with the debris falling through several floors. Whoa, was Izuku's first thought as he looked back at the fallen ceiling and looked back at the arson villain. That drug, it must have been some kind of quirk enhancer. He's more dangerous than ever. I have to end this now. The villain in his doped-up state was clearly shocked at how easily the hero shrugged off his attack. How the hell are you not Ash? His stance flawless, and though the lids in his mask were white he could feel the hero's gaze piercing his soul as he spoke. You can torch a building to the ground, but you can never burn what I am, friend. The villain visibly shook at his words. You want to bet? He roared, as he lunged at Izuku. He came at him with a left hook that Izuku easily deflects with his right hand, and in that same motion he hits him with a left that makes him slam against and bounce off the wall beside him. Before the villain could react he received a high side kick to the face that sent him back, almost knocking him out of the hole at the end of the hall. Fuck you! He roared in pain on the floor as he spat out blood and what Izuku could just make out as a tooth. The villain raised his arms and brought them together, cupping his hands. When he did, all the flames that covered the hall came together, trapping Izuku in a compressed ball of fire. The hero crossed his arms and quickly expanded them, dispersing the fire prison, revealing a dimly lit, black, scorched hall, but the villain was nowhere to be seen. He could still hear the crackling of the still burning building when suddenly, he couldn't. He rushed to the hole in the wall at the end of the hall where the villain had last been seen, and looking up he saw the villain, and was shook. He was producing flames from his feet that he was using to fly, but what worried him was the fireball he was holding above his head that was getting bigger. The fire from the building was being transferred into the ball and was making it grow bigger, brighter, and hotter. All the fire from the building had turned the fireball into a miniature sun that could be seen from blocks away, and then it began to shrink until it was the size of a softball. Oh no! Izuku said in a low voice. Looking to the side he could see the fire department and several EMS still helping people. He had to make sure that compressed inferno was aimed solely at him. I'm gonna torch every last one of you bitches. His declaration, catching the attention of the onlookers. What do you mean? Didn't you say something about turning me to ash? I'm still here, and there's still not a scratch on me, Izuku said, making the villain look at him. Seeing that the hero was indeed unscathed by his fire trap, the villain had had more than enough of this hero. I'm really sick of looking at you, you know. It's about time I really roast you for ruining my fun. If you think you can do it, then be my guest. They struck at the same time. The villain cocked his arm back and threw the ball with all his strength, and the small ball expanded and flew at high speeds upon leaving his hand. In that same moment Izuku jumped in the air directly in the path of the burning ball of death. Rising higher and higher, the hero raised his fist into an uppercut that made the ball explode in a burst of flames when his fist made contact. The villain in his arrogant and high state had no time to register what just happened. As the hero was still coming, Izuku soared through the fiery explosion like a missile, his fist connecting and sinking into the villain's gut. The hero spins, bringing a kick to the villain's shoulder and sending him flying to the ground at high speeds. Izuku kicks off the air, propelling him to the ground. First he raises a hand and catches the unconscious villain with his hand pressed into his stomach, lowering the unconscious villain and looking and seeing that the fire was completely gone, leaving only a burnt building which would be easily repaired in a week or so. Izuku could finally take a breath. Everything turned out all right. He took this time to look at his watch and saw that this had barely taken 10 minutes since he jumped into action. He carried the unconscious villain and immediately heard the cheers of approval when the people saw him. He handed the villain to EMS, who began working on him. He was unconscious. At first inspection they saw that the worst of his injuries was a broken jaw. He was immediately thanked by all of the tenants that he saved. Many of them were going to be taken to a shelter until their home was fixed, but many of them had to see their hero and thank him. Everyone was so overjoyed and thankful just to be alive that it made Izuku feel so warm, and it reminded him that this is why he put on the suit, that this is what his training and power was for. After making sure that all those present were okay, he was about to take his leave, but the news crew had other plans. Wait! You saved all those people and defeated the villain in no time flat. The only one who can even compare to that would be All Might. Before you go, can you please tell us who you are? Said the male reporter, shoving a mic and camera in his face. Izuku looked at the camera and mic and simply walked past the news team before stopping with his back to them and turning his head to the right to look at them. My name is One, he said with pride and confidence before leaping into the air across the city. The hero One, now soaring through the sky, was happy at how his first job went. My first job as a hero was an absolute success. My one regret is that I couldn't save more of the building. Oh well, the government has insurance that covers repairs and losses for villain attacks, so everyone should be fine. With all the news coverage, I wonder if I'll make the news tomorrow? I don't see any hero as my enemy, but I know once I'm well known everyone will be trying to catch me. He let out a sigh at the thought. Oh well, if I have to fight I'll fight, but hopefully I can avoid it. Izuku came out of his thoughts when he noticed that he was descending and gently landed on the roof of a building. So, I wonder what else I'll get into tonight. His thinking out loud abruptly ended when he heard a loud crash a couple of blocks to his 2 o'clock. Jumping to the buildings across the street and using his parkour skills, he arrives at the scene in no time. He stands on the ledge of a building overlooking a battle between Death Arms, Present Mike and Kamui Woods. There were 2 police cars present. Several cars were flipped, and it was apparent that the 3 were losing. Present Mike's amp was broken and he was leaning against a building while Death Arms was smashed into a car nursing a clearly broken arm, and Kamui Woods was fighting an uphill battle against a villain with some power-type quirk. The villain they were fighting had a broad muscular build, short brown hair, rough facial features. He was shirtless, only wearing a green jacket with black jeans and boots. Is this it? Where's all that crap about justice you were spouting a minute ago? I'm getting damn bored here. The man yelled. Lacquered chain prison. Kamui called out his super move. This again? The villain stated. His body began to give off this blue hue. He pulled his fists back and in a burst of speed and power he broke through the hero's wood and slammed both his fists into his chest, sending him flying. Some heroes. He was about to walk away, but he was stopped when a figure landed from a flip in front of him. And you are? You can call me One, and why were you fighting those pros? I was just looking to beat down some heroes. So I trashed a couple cars to get their attention, and it was too damn easy. They're so weak. Then they went on a tangent about justice and I just had to shut them up. What good is morality when you're weak? You can't help or save anyone. All you need is overwhelming power, and if you don't have that I suggest you retire. So you're trying to make them quit. Why? What happened to you? What would be the point in explaining my motivations to a twig like you? Let me guess, you're some freshly baked hero just entering the scene. This is my first day, yes, but that doesn't mean that I don't want to understand people. You clearly resent heroes, why? The boy asked. He wasn't sure what it was, but Izuku could tell that the man was remembering a painful memory before he suddenly lunged at him. You'd never get it. He roared as his body began to glow with a blue hue. He unleashed a flurry of strong, blurring punches at the green hero, but he easily dodged all of them. Sorry in advance, the hero said as he formed his right hand into a chop and used that to block every one of the man's blinding punches. After punching the hero for 10 seconds straight, the man ended his assault because for some reason his hands were hurting way too much. He looked at his hands and to his shock and horror, he saw that just by blocking, this hero had broken all 10 of his fingers, each of them were bent and twisted in several places. You little, was all he had to say before he received a palm strike, making him do several backflips before he was wrapped in wood. Good job, rookie, said Kamui Woods, breathing heavily and clearly in a lot of pain. While the man was being processed, he went over to help both Present Mike and Death Arms. The ambulance arrived to take both heroes and the man for medical treatment. The heroes were loaded up and taken away, but the man was sitting in the ambulance in handcuffs. He needed to know why he resented heroes so much. The man was looking down but looked up when he saw the green hero approach. You beat me. And you didn't throw a single punch, he said, his voice low, almost happy about that. So now will you please tell me why you resent heroes so much? He looked the green hero in the eyes before taking a deep breath and speaking. Because they're all talk, he said, venom in his voice. Izuku took a moment to register his words. He came up with a theory, and unfortunately in the world of heroics it was an unavoidable outcome. Heroes failed to save someone precious to you, didn't they? His voice flowed with empathy and compassion. My best friends are gone and they're never coming back, and the only solace I got from the heroes was them saying they weren't good enough, their quirks weren't suited to handle the situation. The hell am I supposed to do with that? You say you help people, your job is to help people, then do it. Justice, morality is a bunch of crap. If you're not strong enough to handle any and everything, to help and save any and everyone, don't you dare call yourself a hero, he yelled, his eyes piercing the green-clad hero. Izuku took a deep breath before talking again. I'm really sorry about your friends. I'm sure they were good people and cared a lot about you. I can't really say I disagree that heroes should be able to save and help any and everyone, but I also understand that everyone can't be physically strong, but everyone can be strong and save people in their own ways. My strength is meant to help and save people in any and every way I can. I can't speak for other heroes, but I swear to you that not being good enough or suited to the situation will never be said about me. Because when I arrive, everything will be okay, he said, his hero voice exuding confidence in a way that made the man believe it. The man let out a faint smile as the medics began to load him up and take him away. If you were there, I'm certain my friends would still be alive. Who are you anyway? Putting his fist to his heart and giving a bright smile, he responded. I am one. I'll remember that. The name's Ishin Daigoro, were his last words before he was carted off to a villain hospital. Well, I better get going, this is turning into quite the night, Izuku said as he prepared to leave. Wait a minute. He turned around to see Kamui Woods and 2 police officers approaching him. You said your name was One, correct? I've never seen you around. Do you mind if I see your license? Now, while he knew this was bound to happen, he was hoping it wouldn't happen on the first day. In his mind he was a hero no matter what anyone said, so he couldn't just go round beating up others' heroes, especially in front of 2 cops. Turning around to face the 3 men, you know how it is, Kamui Woods, a hero's always on the move, he said before leaping off into the sky to once again soar across the city. This display left the 3 men in shock, most notably the wooden hero. I think that was a vigilante. The hero again soars through the night sky. The bright lights of the are simply beautiful. His talk with Daigoro would be on his mind for a while. He had long since decided the type of hero he would be, and the ability to reason and understand others, even his enemies, was an important part of that. He began descending once again and landed on the roof of another building. He looked down to observe his surroundings and saw he was in the city's entertainment district. The building he was standing on just happened to be across the street from the Love Hotel run by the R-rated hero, Midnight. Apparently the place gets great reviews and it's always a good time. No! Stop! I said I don't want to go in there, said a feminine voice. It came from down the block. Doing some free running, he saw a pretty girl with orange hair. wearing a white mini vest over a black crop top and black skirt, who was being pulled towards a love hotel by a guy in a suit. The guy was trying and failing to gouse her into going in, but he still kept pushing, and the hero wasn't having that. I don't know how you were raised, but my mom told me when a girl says no, she means no. These sudden words startled the two as there were no people around them. The hero jumped off the roof, then landing and flipping off a street light he made his presence known. Who are you? The girl asked, slightly scared. I'm one. I heard your little dispute and I came running. Everything okay here? He said, ice grilling the man through his lenses. The man looked between the girl and the newly arrived hero. The way he jumped off the building meant he'd been watching for a while. He took one final look at the girl. Yeah, we're good here, he said before walking down the block. The girl looked over at her hero. Thanks for that, I really appreciate it, she said with a thankful smile. No problem at all. Who was that guy anyway? Just some guy my friends tried to hook me up with. Some friends, they're not that bad. We're just not cut from the same cloth. Does that make sense? It makes perfect sense. So are you a new hero? I've never seen you around before. Yep, it's actually my first night out and it's been pretty eventful so far. The life of a hero, hope you enjoy it. Thanks again, I'll be going now, she said, beginning to leave. Wait, you don't think that guy will bother you again, do you? He asked, genuinely concerned. Nah, I should be fine, and if he tries I'll just let one of my friends have him. They'd be more than eager, she said jokingly. Later one, she said as she walked away. The hero just waved back at the girl who walked away down the street. While the entertainment district is usually one of the more shady areas of the city, after an hour with no action one decided to move on, leaping into the air to another part of the city. This has been a pretty eventful night. I saved people from a fire, took down an arsonist, helped a hurt guy and saved a girl from a creeper. I'd call this a good night. I was able to avoid fighting a hero, but that will only last so long. Oh well, I wonder what else is in store for me tonight. He lands on the roof of a building, this time overlooking the shopping district. He thought he definitely should have started here, as this is where most crimes are likely to occur, and with that come a lot of heroes. Just looking down he could spot Airjet, even Endeavor and his sidekicks on patrol. As he was on one of the more taller buildings in the district, he scanned the rooftops and saw a man standing on a ledge observing for action just like he was. He was wearing a black outfit, with a strange scarf around his neck and yellow goggles. He was sure he was a hero, but off the top of his head he couldn't name him. It'll come to me eventually. He stood on the edge of the rooftop, and after checking his watch to see that it was almost midnight, he decided to call it a night. He leaped into the air in the direction of his house, finding a secluded alleyway to change out of his costume before heading home. Eraserhead. That's who that was. I knew it would come to me. I'd probably blow his mind if I had to fight him. I wonder if I'll be on the news because of that fire. It's really going to get crazy when they find out that I'm a vigilante. Doesn't matter, because I'm here, and I got this. Chapter 7. Some respect while others reject. Izuku slept great last night. He felt really good. His first day as a hero had gone off without a hitch, and it was only the first of many great days to come. Getting out of his bed and doing some stretches to wake him up, he heads to the bathroom to wash up before his morning workout. There was an energy in the apartment that just felt different the moment he opened his door. He walks in the living room to see his mother preparing breakfast while the news is playing on TV. Good morning, Izuku, his mother said, smiling at him. Good morning, Mom. How are you this morning? I'm fine. Breakfast will be here when you finish your workout, so get dressed. Will do, he said before walking into the bathroom. She wants to ask how my night went. She's probably expecting to see my new hero identity in the news having done something crazy, he thought. He let out a small sigh remembering their conversation when he told her this is what he wanted to do. Flashback 1 week ago, the two Midoriyas are sitting at the kitchen table eating dinner in silence. The younger of the two tries to find his words as he's about to ask his mother for her approval to break the law. His mother was amazing, loving, caring, and most of all, supporting. From day one she supported his dream of wanting to be a quirkless hero. She knew from the moment he was diagnosed quirkless what his life would be like, how people would treat him, the obstacles he would face. But in spite of all of that, she always believed in him. She believed he really could achieve his dream and be everything he wanted to be. When his world was falling apart after his diagnosis, she very easily could have apologized to him and wished that things were different. But, she didn't. She told him he could do it, but he had to be willing to work hard for it, and he did. She was right. He had obtained the strength, skills and abilities to be the hero he wanted to be, but his dream as a pro hero is unobtainable now. Surely she would understand why he wanted to do this, but still, his masters supported him, his best friend supported him, he needed his mom in his corner on the path he was prepared to walk. Hey Mom. He perked up after finishing his food. Yes Izuku, you know that I applied to 3 other hero schools after the rejection from you, right? He asked, his green eyes meeting hers. Yes I know. Did one of them accept your application? She asked, hopeful for her son. Well that's the thing, no. All 3 of them rejected my application for the same reason you did. He said, not trying to sound hurt at the still fresh pain of rejection. Inko looked down, trying to fight back tears at her son's words. I'm sorry Izuku. You've worked so hard for this, just for them to not give you a chance, she said, her words carrying anger. Yeah, this hurts a lot. I've been told my whole life I can't be a hero without a quirk, and that's apparently a sentiment the Hero Academia shares. Still, I don't want to give up on my dream. Inko looked at her son, proud of his determination but confused as his dream was now unobtainable. He's been barred by the same institution that has to give it to him. How do you plan on being a hero Izuku? She asked, curious at what her smart son was planning. I want to be a hero that can save anyone, anywhere from anything. That's what I've always wanted to be, and I know I can. I want to be that hero, more than anything, even if hero society says it's impossible for someone like me. That's why. I want to be a vigilante. Inko was shocked at hearing this. Her son was telling her he wants to break the law. She was about to give her thoughts, but he cut her off. I know that this must be a shock, but I've thought long and hard about this. I wish I didn't have to resort to this, but I can't just give up on my dream. For someone like me, taking it into my own 2 hands is the only way to obtain it. I have spoken with the masters and they gave their support, now I am asking for yours Mom. He looked her in the eyes, his gaze almost pleading for her approval. It was very reminiscent of the look he had when he asked if he could still be a hero despite being quirkless. Emerald eyes met as the mother cleared her throat. Izuku, you're asking me to give you permission to break the law. Her voice raised almost a yell. What if you get arrested? What if you die? What about your future? Her worry was evident with every question. Mom, I really wish that it didn't have to be this way. I've worked really hard all these years and I've become really strong. I have thought of all the possible ways this can go wrong and I promise I won't let that happen. This isn't about me playing hero, this is about me taking my dream into my own hands because the world discriminates against people like me under the guise of it being for my own good. I won't let this negatively affect my future. I'll get into a great high school and university, and I'll find a great career. I'm asking you because you always believed in me and I didn't want to go behind your back. I'm just asking you to trust me. His eyes showed the same look from the night after he was diagnosed quirkless. Inko thought back on all the years since that day at the doctor's. She told him and firmly believed he could be a hero like All Might, still does, but the Hero Academia barred him from that goal. A hero was all he ever wanted to be since the day he saw All Might's debut. All the years he spent training for this one singular goal just to be told he can't have it, and to not have a chance to try and prove them wrong. She was angry that her son had to deal with this disrespectful, blatant discrimination, but a part of her was proud that in spite of that he still champions on. She didn't want anything to happen to him, but she knew she couldn't stop him. She found the perfect place to prepare him and now all she could do was support him. Okay. She said, almost reluctantly. Okay? So you're okay with this? He said, thankful but still shocked by her answer. Yes, I kinda have to be on board with this because even if I objected I'm sure you would still do this anyway. I am so sorry that they hurt you Izuku, and I wish that things were different. You said that you would be careful and not get arrested or worse killed. I am choosing to believe that. As much as I don't want you to risk your future by doing this I'll support you, but, if you do this then you are going to accept any and all consequences that come from this decision, she said in a stern voice and a piercing gaze. Izuku took in his mother's response. A part of him was expecting her to say no and him breaking her heart by doing it anyway and potentially damaging their relationship, but she said yes. Though clearly worried of how this could go wrong she's having faith that he won't let that happen. He didn't want to hurt or disappoint her by failing, when her trust as well as support of this decision was all he asked for. His mother continued to believe in him and he was eternally grateful for that. Even more so he was thankful for the mother he had. "Thank you, Mom. I promise I won't let you down. There will also be some stipulations, the biggest of which is if your grades suffer from this then you're done until they're acceptable again." Okay. End flashback. After brushing his teeth and flossing, Izuku took a quick wash-off before throwing on some black sweatpants, blue t-shirt and sneakers. "Be back in a bit, Mom," he said before closing the door behind him. He did a couple of light stretches before walking to the park down the street. For people who were up this early, it wasn't uncommon for them to see him doing his morning routine of 400 push-ups, sit-ups, squats, ending this with a 30-kilometer run around the city. Izuku took off into the city, running at a pace that those who saw him would mistake his casual run for a sprint. He saw a lot of the city on these runs, especially when he added parkour to the mix. Sometimes he would spot villains up early and up to no good. He would have to leave it to the pros, but now one is all over it. He ended his run at Dagoba Beach. He saw only one car in the parking lot as he stepped onto the platform overlooking the beach. Stopping to take in the beautiful scene of the beach and the tranquil sound of the crashing waves, he saw a man standing at the shore edge. He was really skinny with scruffy blonde hair that ran back. Izuku, having enjoyed the view, decided to head home for breakfast and take a shower before school. Unbeknownst to the boy, the skinny blonde man was deep in thought. Just barely 2 weeks ago this place was a dump with mountains of trash everywhere. I figured this would be a good place to train young Togata, but that's been scraped. More importantly, who cleaned this place so quickly? You'd think local news would be raving about whoever restored this place to its former beauty. This was great community service if nothing else, he thought. Izuku returned home to the smell of a delicious breakfast, and a news report of the public thanking the unknown person who cleaned Dagoba Beach. He hopped in the bathroom for a quick shower and after getting dressed he finally sat down for his breakfast. The two sat in silence for a while before the mother chose to speak. "So how was your night?" she asked, genuinely curious. "It was pretty good for my first day. I think I had a really good debut." He smiled at remembering his night. "Really, what did you get into?" Her question was interrupted by the sound of the news on TV. "Who has won?" This sudden announcement made both the Greenettes turn their attention to the TV. 3 reporters, 2 men and 1 woman were sitting at a table with the headline above them. What was first thought of as a new hero but was actually a vigilante burst on the scene last night and got himself involved in several incidents last night. One of the men said. The woman spoke next. "That's right, a villain with a fire quirk set an apartment complex on fire. Some were able to make it out but many were trapped with no way out. The fire department arrived minutes after the emergency call, but with the villains still inside they couldn't get in and save anyone. That was until this vigilante clad in green showed up. What he did and how efficiently he did it was incredible. We have the footage. Enjoy." A clip played of the fire last night and a flash delivering people out of the fire every few seconds. It then showed the moment after he cleared out the building with his back to the camera. It played his declaration of everything being okay because he's got this before flashing a smile and thumbs up to both the cameras and then going back in the building in a flash. Next it showed him beating the arson villain, giving his name to the media and leaping away. Impressive. This was done all within the span of 10 minutes and it was over before any pros arrived. "What are our thoughts on this?" she asked her colleagues. "While it was good that no one was killed in this situation, I can in no way condone his actions. He may have had the best of intentions, but we can't condone vigilantism." One of the male reporters said. "This just looks to me like a all might want to be playing hero. He got lucky, but this could have gone so wrong. The pros would have been just fine without his intervention." The other male reporter said. "Well, I can't say that I support his actions, but I am glad that no one died. That wasn't the only incident he was involved in last night. Apparently there was a man causing chaos just to pick a fight with some heroes. Death Arms, Kamui Woods and Present Mike were all involved, and while the details were not fully disclosed, both Present Mike and Death Arms needed medical attention, and in a statement from the police this same vigilante in green interfered and defeated the man. Kamui Woods attempted to question him but he left before he could." Thoughts? As I said before, he's just an all-might-wanna-be playing hero. If he's watching this, I have a suggestion. Your actions, while brave, are more reckless than heroic. I suggest you stop this little game before someone gets hurt. he said, facing the camera. Izuku finally turned away from the TV and looked at his mother. Well, it's not like I didn't see this coming. Still, this is the furthest thing from a game to me, and I'm going to make sure the people know that. Aldera Junior High. Izuku and Taku were talking in their corner in the back of the class before it was time to start. So, your first day was a success, I presume? Taku asked with a sly smile. Yeah, it all went pretty good. In all honesty, the fire felt a lot longer than it actually was. The suit is awesome, by the way. Taku could only smile upon hearing that. Well, of course, my man. Me and Grandpa put a lot of effort into making it as good for you as possible. I'm already thinking about upgrades and new designs, he said excitedly. Really? Of course, what craftsman is satisfied with a base model? Plus every hero needs more than one costume, and if I can improve it or make it better, I'm gonna do that. Well, I think it's already great as is, but if you think it'll help, go for it. Bet. Speaking of, I saw the news this morning. Must have been rough with such a harsh critique out the gate. Not really. I knew this was inevitable. The only thing that hurt was him claiming that this was a game. I'll prove them wrong in time though. Sweet. By the way, how's your girl reacting to all this? He asked with a sly grin. Izuku narrowed his eyes at his friend. If you're talking about Momo, I never told her, he said plainly. The Greynet was shocked to hear that. Wait, really? I figured you would have ran to her and told her about your crushed ambition, at which point she would pull you into a boobalicious, comforting hug. After all, no woman can resist a man on the verge of tears. His sly grin never wavering, her boobs aside for a minute. I didn't want to tell her because it would mean I can't stay with her, he said, sadness evident in his voice. Taku raised an eyebrow. What? We said that we would support each other and chase our dreams together. Now my dream from a conventional standpoint is unobtainable. I want to keep training with her and being her friend, but soon she'll be off at U.A. and I'll be off, who knows. Plus she's trying to be a pro, and that would be conflicting if she was with me, so I just didn't want to face that until I had to. Well, I think you should tell her everything. Honestly, I think she would understand. He took a deep breath before speaking. You think I should? He asked, genuinely concerned about his friend's answer. Yeah, you said that you two said you'd support each other. If she really meant it, then given the circumstances she'll definitely support your decision, he said with a confident smile. Izuku thought for a moment on Taku's words, and he could only hope that he was right. He texted Momo if he could come over after school, as this was something that needed to be said in person. She had become an invaluable friend to him in the past 5 months, and he didn't want to lose that because he wasn't honest or didn't trust her. He didn't want to keep his life as one a secret from her either. God forbid he had to fight her, because as a hero her job would be to catch him. So at this point all he could do was hope this goes well. Classes ended that day and Izuku got the green light from Momo to come over. He and Taku were about to leave the class when an interesting subject came up. Hey, did you guys hear about that new vigilante? Said a random boy. Yeah, he showed up to save people from a fire and he beat the villain that caused it, all before the pros showed up, said another boy. Yeah, I could actually see the fire from my window. That's how close it was. I'm just glad it didn't spread. Matter of fact, doesn't Hashida live in that building? Asked the girl. Why else do you think he's not here today? Came the voice of Tensaki. Everyone listening to the conversation looked at the long-fingered boy. He okay? Asked a random boy. Well, most of his stuff got torched, so he's not great. I was actually with him when it all happened. Everyone's attention skyrockets having heard this. Everything was on fire. We couldn't escape at all. I seriously thought we were going to die. The villain even kicked the door and started burning the place. We had to hide in a bathroom. Then he showed up. Hero, vigilante, I don't care. He told us to come with him, and in a flash we were safely outside. He was awesome, and I want to thank him if I ever get the chance. Izuku smiled before exiting the class with Taku. He would never regret saving him and Hashida, but it still felt weird hearing one of his primary antagonists unknowingly praising him. Chuckling a little, Taku perked up. Bet that felt weird? The Greenette nodded in response. Yeah, a little. Even if he doesn't know who it was, he wants to thank me, and he thought I was awesome. That's just crazy when you think about it. You plan on going out tonight? Taku asked. Of course, it may be a little late when I go out, assuming everything goes well with Momo. Alright, if you need your sidekick, I'm always on the line. After giving a fist bump and walking in separate directions after leaving the school, Izuku headed to the train station. After an hour's train ride he made it to Momo's front gate. He had to take a deep breath before pressing the button and asking to be let in. He passed the gate and walked the road to the mansion. He had to admit that he was a bit anxious. What was he going to say to Momo? How would she react? Hopefully she would accept it, but the thought of her not only made him more hesitant. He finally made it to the front door. I just have to man up and do this, he thought before ringing the bell with Saitama answering the door. Hello Midoriya, the madam has been expecting you, he said with closed eyes. Hello Saitama, how are you today? The boy asked as he walked through the front door. I am doing well, yourself? I've been good, though admittedly I'm a little nervous. I have to talk to Momo about something important. Do you mind telling me where she is? She was in the library the last I saw of her, he said, his eyes still closed. Thank you. Izuku bowed his head to the older man before making his way through the giant mansion to the library. He entered the giant library and found his beautiful, black-haired friend sitting in a lounge chair. Hey Momo! He exclaimed while waving at her. The girl looked up from her book. Hello Izuku, it's good to see you. She smiled at him, putting down her book. What are you reading? It's nothing important, just a book of different fairy tales and myths. I didn't know you were into that kind of stuff. Well, usually I'm not, but some of these stories are pretty interesting. I've actually read some pretty interesting stories like that, but the only ones that interested me were the ones about heroes, he said, smiling sheepishly as he rubbed the back of his head. Naturally, Momo said with a smile. Okay, let's hope this works out, he thought to himself. Mind if we go for a walk and talk? Sure, let's walk around the garden, she said as she got up and noticed that Izuku was at eye level. Did you get taller? Izuku realized that he had grown a bit. He was now just as tall as Kaken now, and Momo had always been taller than him, but now she had roughly a centimeter on him. I guess so. They left the library and began walking toward the garden. They walked in silence for a while before the girl decided to speak. So, how have you been? I haven't heard from you in a few weeks. I was glad to get your text. Yeah, sorry for not keeping in touch. A lot's happened over the past few weeks. He looked her in the eyes, trying not to lower his head. Such as? Her onyx eyes looked at him with concern. This was it. This was the moment he had been dreading since his first rejection letter from UA. Hey Momo, can I ask you an honest question? Of course. My whole life, not many people looked at me or treated me like a normal person because I was quirkless. Growing up, practically every attempt I made to make friends instantly died the moment I didn't have a quirk to show off. I've essentially always been a pariah at school because of that fact. Couple that with my dream to be a hero, and for some reason it causes people to show me the worst parts of themselves. It hurts. It really hurts to be treated like a freak and be belittled just for having dreams like everyone else. People mock me just for trying, but you never did. Why? The black-haired girl took in her friend's words. He had been through so much. She was admittedly shocked to learn that he was quirkless at first, but she didn't mind that fact at all. She couldn't possibly understand how hard his life must have been. The statistics may show that 20% of the world's population is quirkless, but what the stats don't show is that most of them are people in their golden years and couldn't care less about it. However, kids born in this world built on quirks was a different story. Mental health issues, self-harm and suicide are very high in that demographic, especially amongst teenagers. I'm not the type to judge someone off something as trivial as their quirk or lack thereof. Izuku, you're the first and only quirkless person I have ever met, so it didn't seem logical, rational or necessary to blindly discriminate against you. I had only known you for a few days when you told me you were quirkless. I thought you were a good person when we met, and Sensei clearly thought highly of you. Plus, having a quirk has nothing to do with your character, so I guess it didn't bother me. The boy smiled at hearing her words. Well, thank you Momo, you don't know how much that meant to me, he said, meeting her eyes with a big, grateful smile. You're welcome, she said, smiling back. Her answer largely mitigated the nerves he initially had about having this conversation. Time to press on to why he came here. Walking in silence for a while before reaching the garden and walking through the landscape. Momo? Yes. I'm not going to UA. What? Why not? She asked, clearly confused. You see, the thing is, 2 weeks ago I got a letter from UA, Basically it said that they won't allow me to take the entrance exam because I'm quirkless. His eyes met hers and his words never faltered. The girl lowered her head for a moment, clearly sad about this news. She knew that Udade was a special school, and although it was disrespectful not to give someone a chance to try when their motto is plus ultra, she knew and was afraid that they might do this. She just never wanted to tell Izuku. "Have you looked into other schools?" she said in a slightly sullen voice. He sighed as he continued. "I did. I applied to Shiketsu, Ketsubutsu, and Osamu, but they all said the same thing that Udade said. They say they are protecting their school and me, but it's actually just blatant discrimination." Momo was shocked and angry that all of these respectable schools would deny him a chance to try and get into their hero department for the same reason. Izuku was one of the strongest people she knew, and she was certain he would excel in any hero course. The actions of these schools were nothing less than disgraceful. She was really looking forward to them going to Udade together, training and becoming heroes together, and now it was impossible. They said that they would help and support each other in their shared goal. She had gotten much stronger with Izuku's help. He had become a cherished friend and invaluable to her progress these past few months. "What do you plan to do now?" she asked with concern. "I have thought long and hard about this. I know exactly what direction to go in. The world discriminates. If I just accept this and let my dream die, I'll never get over it. I have decided that I'm going to be a hero, no matter what anyone says. I'll use the skills I have obtained to help people in any and every way I can, so I chose to become a vigilante," he said, his eyes never leaving hers. "You want to be an illegal hero? What if you get arrested? What if you get killed? I have thought about all the reasons this can go wrong, and I won't let that happen. This is my dream, Momo. It's all I ever wanted to be, and this is the only way I can. I could really use you in my corner too," he said, almost pleading. "Too?" she said, raising an eyebrow. "Yes, I have the support of my mom, my masters, Taku and his family, and I would really appreciate yours." "Okay," she said in a calm voice. The brunette, though happy, was still shocked at her seemingly easy response. "So you really support my decision?" "Sorry, but I was expecting a little more of a pushback. It's as you said, Izuku, this is the only way someone like you can be a hero. The Hero Academia blatantly discriminated against you. You tried to go the proper route, but they shut the door on you. We said that we would help and support each other in becoming heroes. If this is the path that you have to take, then I will support you. Just promise me that you'll be careful," she said, her words carrying nothing but care for him. Izuku was happy, really happy. The day of his rejection from Udade had been one of the worst days of his life, made even worse by the letters followed. His dream, his aspirations had been constantly stepped on by practically everyone, but he always championed on, because even if others didn't believe that he could be a quirkless hero, it truly would have been impossible if he didn't believe it. He took his dream into his own hands. He was going to become everything he dreamed of becoming, and he had all of those who believed in and acknowledged him in his corner. "Thank you, and I promise I will be careful." "You're welcome," she said, smiling at him. They continued walking in silence for a while before Momo decided to speak again. "So do you have a costume or even a name?" "Yeah, I have a costume, and my name is One." "One?" the girl said with a raised eyebrow. "Why One? Is that supposed to mean something?" "I chose the name One mostly because there is only one of me. Not to sound conceited, but I'm certain there's no one else in the world like me. I am quirkless, but I can do things that even those with quirks can't do," he said with a confident smile. "Okay," she said in a curious tone. She made a mental note to ask him to show her what he means later. "And what does your costume look like?" "I'll show you." He then played with his watch for a few seconds before his body was enveloped in a green light, revealing him in his costume when it faded. "So Momo, what do you think?" he said in his hero voice with a charming smile. Momo walked around him a few times, becoming more and more mesmerized by his form the more she looked at him. She knew he was muscular, but his suit was really showing just how defined his muscles were. He looked like a god sculpted from marble. "It looks really good, Izuku. I wasn't expecting such a well-made suit. I am assuming Fujiwara made this?" "Yes, Taku and his grandfather made this suit for me. It feels amazing, and it admittedly came out looking better than I hoped. It's fireproof, bulletproof, blade-proof, comes with scanners and provides maximum mobility. It feels like I'm wearing nothing at all," he said in his hero voice as he did a pose. Momo instantly brought her hand to her mouth to try and hold in her giggling. In the time she had gotten to know him, she learned that though it wasn't all of the time, Izuku had no problem with being a goofball, and when he was it usually made her laugh. "So, how often do you plan on going out and being one?" "I plan on this being a daily part of my life. I actually plan on going out on patrol when I leave here." They spent the next hour just enjoying each other's company. They talked about training, and Momo had improved a lot over the past few months and she was only going to keep getting better. Izuku told her to ask Michiko if she could live at the dojo since winter break was coming up. He'd be living there like always and she could get even better if she did, to which she said she'd definitely ask her when she came tomorrow. As the sun was starting to set, Izuku decided to head back home, promising next time to stay for dinner. He headed back to the train station and hopped in the train back home and immediately ran into the city. Finding a secluded spot in an alley, he donned his costume and jumped on the roof of a building ready for some action. It had gotten dark and there was a tension in the air that put him on edge as he scoured the city. Hearing the sound of chaos to the east, he headed over to see that the largest bank in town had been broken into. The entrance had been blown open and there stood two villains holding large bags full of what he could only assume was cash. People were running from the scene while several were watching and recording for some stupid reason. One was average height while the other was taller. The taller one had a brawny build and was wearing a mask to cover his face, metal armor covering his upper body with metal sleeves and gauntlets on his arms and hands. He also wore baggy cargo pants and black combat boots. The shorter one had a lean build and was wearing a black spandex suit that covered his whole body, only exposing his mouth and white hair with a blue bolt on his chest. He also wore blue goggles. "We could wait for the heroes to show up because reasons. How much longer do you think he's gonna be?" the white-haired villain asked his partner. "Who knows? He said he had a personal mission. It shouldn't take too long. Here, you get these back to the hideout. We'll catch up," the brawny villain said as he handed his partner his bags of cash. One decided that now was the time to make his presence known. Jumping from the building he was standing on, he landed as a flash behind the brawny villain. "You know, it's called a job, gentlemen." His sudden arrival made both of the villains jump back in shock. "Where the hell did you even come from?" the lean villain exclaimed. "That doesn't matter. All that does is that you two are going to return that money and turn yourselves in for this." "Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. The only problem is that Fwoosh." He never finished that sentence as his body was instantly shrouded in blue lightning and he jetted down the street, bags of cash in tow. "Ta, fucking idiot. I've got the fastest speed quirk around. I've gotten away from Hawks and All Might. See you later, loser," he yelled as in less than 5 seconds he had made it 2 blocks away. "Did I ever claim to be Hawks or All Might?" came a voice that gave the fleeing villains chills, as suddenly the hero was right beside him to his right. "The name is One, by the way," the hero told the running villain. He blinked only once and the hero was gone again. When he looked forward again, there he was, but it was too late. With one chop to the shoulder, everything went dark, the horrible realization dawning on him before he lost consciousness. "He's faster than me. That's one down, one more to go." They did imply they had another partner still in the bank. "Heroes should arrive soon. Let's wrap this up quickly." Grabbing the bags of money and slugging the unconscious villain over his shoulder, he ran back down the street in a flash, stopping in front of the brawny villain and placing the money and his unconscious partner on the ground. "I am surprised you were actually able to outpace Bolt," said the villain. "Well, that confuses me, because I doubt you're as surprised as I am that you're still standing here after realizing that." The villain smirked behind his mask. You're clearly a rookie hero and don't know how to pick your battles, so let me tell you, I'm far more powerful than Bolt." "He had speed but no power," he said in a condescending tone. "Yeah, I kinda figured that. But why were you guys robbing a bank any? He who strikes first wins," the villain roared as he lunged at the hero. But his thrill of a surprise attack was instantly stunted when one caught his fist and gripped it like a vice. "While there's some truth to what you just said, you're better off using a sneak attack on someone more likely to fall for it," the hero said as he cocked his fist back. The sound of crushed metal rang out as one shot his fist into the villain's gut, completely destroying his armor and undershirt, leaving only his well-toned six-pack exposed. "I see, so you're strong as well. You have beaten me," he said through shallow breaths through his mask. "Is that really what you expected me to say, you fool?" he yelled as his skin began to darken. All this armor was just a minor protective outer shell. Behold! My quirk turns my flesh into armor. Many times harder than steel. Now what will you dash, crush? The villain's gloating was ended by the same fist sinking into his gut, much harder this time, causing excruciating pain and making him spit up blood behind his mask before everything went dark. My master once told me that you can never trust the skill of those who spend more time talking than fighting. Don't know why you two felt the need to rob banks, but I hope you change for the better. Oh crap, I forgot to ask about their other partner. Boom! He was brought out of his thoughts as he looked up and saw that an explosion blew a hole in the top floor. As the smoke cleared, he saw a figure falling down, followed by feminine screaming. A woman was falling from a lot of stories up. Before he could even think about it, he was in the air, and in a flash the falling woman was in his arms. Don't worry, I got you, miss, he said with confidence. You've got me? Who's got you? She exclaimed as they were several stories off the ground. Ha ha, no need to worry, because I got this, Skywalk. He kicked off the air, allowing him to fly across the sky. The panicked woman still clutching him was astounded. You can fly? Well, something like that, the hero replied. What even happened back there? That's right, a villain is trying to break into our primary vault. You have to stop him. I'll get you on the ground and then I'm all over it. After getting the woman on the ground, he made a perfect jump to the hole at the top of the bank. He entered what was clearly an executive's office. The entire floor was one big suite. The smell of smoke was prevalent in the air, and he could hear the sound of someone rummaging through something in the far end of the suite. He headed down to what he thought was a vault and saw a man going through cash, merchandise, and various things in the vault. He had curly black hair and was wearing a crimson red coat, black skinny jeans, black boots, and shades. Looking for something, buddy? One asked, clearly rhetorical. Obviously, but it don't seem to be here. Well, since what you're looking for isn't here, mind telling me why you threw a woman out a window? 1. That wasn't a woman, that was a hoe. It's basically a freebie. And 2. He started to pick his nose as he said this, to the hero's disgust. Finding a suitable bogey, he flicks it at the hero, who easily dodges it. Who does the boom? One is sent flying from the force of the explosion into the safety glass behind him, cracking it. Exploding snot? That's an unusual and nasty quirk, he thought as he got back to his feet. Well, what I wanted isn't here, so I guess I'll just kill you to vent my frustrations. Sound good, hero? You're welcome to try, but I doubt trying to kill me will help with your problems, he said as he got into his stance. The villain lunged first, throwing a wide punch at one that he easily blocks with his forearm. He was suddenly surprised when a powerful explosion blasted from the point of impact. As the smoke cleared, the hero stood firm, completely unfazed by the explosion. So it's not just your snot, your quirk turns your entire body into a bomb, he deduced, confident in his analysis. That's right, I can turn any part of my body into a powerful bomb, making you the biggest form of fool for fighting me. The villain's arrogance shining through. I'm not so sure about that, one stated before kicking the villain in the gut, sending him flying across the suite, almost out the window. The villain gets his bearings and tries to stand to his feet, only to be met with a chop to the head, making him drop to the floor, cracking the tile and falling unconscious. Well, that's over. I should ask that woman what he was looking for, but she's probably with the pros by now. Oh well, he said before putting the villain on his shoulder and jumping out the window back down to the entrance at the bottom where he left the other two villains. Unsurprisingly, there were heroes and police grouped and already taking the other two villains into custody, with the woman from earlier talking to police. All eyes were on him when he hit the ground. Yo! I got one more right here. He was trying to find something, but fortunately it wasn't in the vault, he said as he placed the unconscious villain on the ground. We'll take it from here, said an officer as several approached to collect the villain. He looked around to see Airjet, MT Lady and Kamui Woods Ice grilling him. It didn't take a genius to know what was coming next, so he chose to make his leave. But the moment he took a step, a long tendril of wood flew at him in an attempt to grab him. In a flash he was gone, with the wooden tendril wrapping around nothing but air. What the? Where'd he go? The wooden hero thought, but before he could process his thoughts he felt a hand on his shoulder. Relax a little, okay, Kamui Woods. I was only leaving. You know what they say, a hero's always on the move. The wooden hero's face shifted, clearly annoyed by that statement. "No, you're under arrest for vigilantism," he said in a stern voice. "Ah yes, I knew this was inevitable, but a couple things. First, my name is 1, please address me as that, and 2, boom." In a flash followed by a sound that could only be described as several sonic booms at once, he was gone, leaving the all who witnessed his departure stunned. 1 was running through the city at a constant speed of Mach 5, he could perceive everything and it all moved in slow motion. It showed that most of the time the city really was peaceful. Until it wasn't. He knew it was dangerous, but he jumped into traffic and perfectly shifted across the street, and he saw about a dozen men in masks robbing an electronics store. They had already loaded several TVs, speakers, computers, processors, and the latest game consoles into a van and a pickup truck. No alarm was going off, so he assumed one of them had a quirk that made that happen. At the distance he could count a dozen men rushing in and out of the store, and assuming there was one man in each of the cars ready to drive off if something went wrong. Rushing to the thieves, he chose to target the ones who weren't carrying anything first. With blinding speed and a single chop to the neck, 5 of the thieves dropped to the ground unconscious. The others looked around, shocked at seeing their allies suddenly go down, but not seeing who did it. They were even more shocked to see that the merchandise they were just holding was also gone. "What the hell is happening?" said one of the panicked thieves. The thieves were still in shock when a voice came out of nowhere, putting them all on edge. "You know, some people save up for a long time to buy this stuff. Seems kinda lazy for you guys to just steal it." The remaining thieves look into the store to see a hero in a green costume with a black cowl standing up from a crouched position. Looking behind him they could see all the electronics that they were just holding. "So you're the one who knocked out our guys?" growled one of the thieves as he assumed an attack stance. "That's right. I don't know what you want with all that stuff, but I'm taking it all back," one said, getting into his own stance. Of the 7 thieves in front of him, not many of them seemed to have an offensive quirk except for 3. One of them's arms morphed into giant gorilla arms, another touched the metal pole beside him and his whole body was coated in metal, and the third one's hands began to glow blue and gave off an intense vibration sound. He quickly blitzed and knocked out 4 of the thieves in a flash. The metal man tried to hit him with a right hook, but the hero dodged and grabbed his wrist. One then pulls him down and brings his left knee to connect with the right side of the thief's head. "I can't have this fight in the store. Some stuff could get busted if we do this in here," he thought before spinning and throwing the metal man into gorilla arms, sending them both out the store and into the street. Glowing Hand got distracted from seeing his friends be sent flying so easily. The hero took this opportunity to jump at the villain with a flying kick. The power and momentum of the kick carried him out of the store, but the hero kicked him again, sending him flying past his teammates and crashing into the brick wall of the building across the street. The thief's hands stopped glowing and he fell off the cracked wall, hitting the ground unconscious. The 2 remaining thieves looked in horror at their defeated partner. He took down Sheen without breaking a sweat. The metal thief said in a shallow, frightened voice, "Okay, here's the plan. I'm gonna take him while you get to the van and get out of here." Gorilla Arms whispered to his partner, "Alright, but you be right behind me. I'll catch up later," Gorilla Arms assured. 1, having heard that entire exchange as he was walking toward the thieves, could only look at the van and truck loaded with stolen electronics and the knocked out thieves on the ground. So no one was a getaway driver in case something went wrong? Everyone was in there stealing something? These guys are not good thieves, the hero thought. However, he didn't have time to criticize their non-existing thievery skills as Gorilla Arms jumped at him. He brought both his arms back to try and smash the hero into the ground. 1 was prepared and simply crossed his arms above his head. The thief brought down his fists, not breaking the hero's guard but cracking the concrete beneath him. 1 parted his arms, which forced the thief's arms to part as well, leaving him open to a backflip kick, sending him high into the air. The thief, while in intense pain, was still conscious after that one, but he had no time to react as in a flash the hero was in the air, directly in his face. "Send your blows," the hero yelled out. The hero threw punches at such blinding speed that 1,000 materialized, his final punch slamming the thief back to the ground, cracking the sidewalk, leaving him an unconscious, pummeled mess, and his arms returning to normal. As 1's feet hit the ground, he heard the van's motor starting up. He rushes to the car before the thief can even switch gears. The hero rips the door off and snatches the thief out of the car, throwing him across the street near the knocked out Glowing Hands guy. "Who the hell are you?" the thief roared. The hero smirked at his question. You can call me one, and we can keep fighting, or you can sit down while I call the authorities. The choice is yours. His hero's voice stern. The villain only grunted as he put his hand on the brick wall behind him and his body was slowly covered in it. I'm about to knock you out, hero. Everything was going so smoothly, we were about to make a killing, but you had to go and fuck it up. He roared as he rushed towards the hero. His assault, however, was instantly halted as he was forced against the brick wall. Pain shot through every nerve in his body. He was coated with brick, but it didn't do a damn thing to protect him from this guy. He could see the hero looking right at him, with his fist shoved into his gut, and he could hear and feel his brick coating crumbling away. He was running to punch the hero. He blinked and he ended up like this. The darkness was beginning to take him, only able to muster the words of his shock of the past 5 seconds. So fast, he said in a weak, shallow voice. Not just fast. Powerful. One said, in a strong, confident tone. With the thief's coating completely gone and him being knocked out, one finally decided to lay him on the ground and call the cops. He jumped onto the roof of the electronics store. It felt a little weird calling the police to tell them that you just committed vigilantism, but he trusted Taku that they couldn't track the phone, so he went for it. Hello, operator. This is the hero one. I just stopped some thieves who were robbing an electronics store. They have all been incapacitated, so please come pick them up. Suddenly feeling a presence behind him, he sees something heading for his right forearm. Reacting more than fast enough, he lowers his arm and spins to the right, grabbing the item with his left hand. To his surprise, it was some kind of long fabric that was leading a trail back to a man standing about 10 feet behind him. Yes, you have a good day as well, he said before hanging up. That's not really a human way to say hello to someone, Eraserhead, he said, trying to ease what was surely going to be a tense situation. Maybe not. Even though that was a nice catch, you still won't get away from me. His tone was 100% serious. Where'd you even come from? He asked, genuinely curious as he didn't notice him before he got so close. I was watching your entire fight. The hero raised an eyebrow behind his cowl. And what did you think? You're under arrest for vigilantism. Not surprised you're saying that, but come on, I'm not the bad guy here. One exclaimed. You're committing a crime right now. So yeah, you are. The older man stated. That's a pretty black and white argument, and I'm not gonna get taken in. Then resisting arrest will be another charge placed on you. Well, the police should be here to clean this up in a minute, so make sure it goes smoothly for me, would ya? And also sorry in advance. The moment these words left his lips, one rushed at the Erasure hero with blinding speed while still holding onto his scarf. In a flash he was in the older hero's face before connecting a high kick to his chin, bringing him off the ground. Eraser, stunned and in pain, couldn't react to one jumping and spinning in the air, effectively wrapping the hero in his own scarf. The vigilante pulls back on the scarf, making it tighten and slamming the pro to the ground with a loud thud. Once again, sorry for that. See you around, Eraser. Bye, he said as he raised a hand with his back to the pro before leaping into the air and flying across the city with Skywalk. The pro, after some wrangling, was finally able to free himself from his own scarf, and unbeknownst to one, he was using his quirk on him the entire time. My quirk, it doesn't affect him. Damn, this guy may turn into one hell of a problem, he thought as he finally stood up, nursing his chin. One was soaring through the city, performing spins and just feeling like the wind. He had first developed his Skywalk technique a year and a half ago, but tonight was the first time he got to use it in the field. It quickly became one of his favorite techniques, and it's one of his most versatile. Soaring through the sky like this made him feel like a real Saturday morning superhero. Hell, even All Might can't fly, and he was proud that he, a quirkless kid, found his own way to do it. Despite how much fun this was, he couldn't shake the fear that he would have many more confrontations with heroes, specifically Eraserhead. He hoped he didn't hurt him too badly. It's their job to arrest him, but it doesn't mean he has to try to seriously hurt them because of it. After all, they're all fighting the same fight. Today has been quite a day. I now have everyone important to me in support of my decision, but in hindsight I can't believe I was scared to tell Momo. Taku was right again, I guess. I'll patrol for another 3 hours or so and I'll call it a night. I almost forgot I have a Cal test tomorrow. Let's go. Chapter 8, The People's Hero. It was a little over a month and a half before graduation from Aldera Junior High, and many students were excited to move on from this chapter in their lives. Many had already submitted their applications to various high schools, some of which favored specific career paths. Izuku was uncertain as to where to go. After all, he really never thought of a school that wasn't part of the Hero Academia. He had finally made a list of some schools with a good overall record. He chose Fumizuki Academy, Sakai High, Kunijigakaka High and Tokioka Academy. All of these schools were good and were strong in academics, athletics, sciences, and business. These were among some of the top schools in the country, and graduating in the top 50 from one of these schools would grant him connections and a scholarship to any college he wanted. Taku was in a similar situation, as he really didn't care where he went. His mom wanted him to go to Kunijigakaka High as it had a strong academic program and it wasn't too far from home. However, he didn't care about that because he just wanted the school to be a good environment, have plenty to do, and most importantly, have pretty girls. He decided to just go where Izuku goes, as he had seen his list and those schools fit the bill of where he'd be fine going. The deadline to send in their applications was in 2 weeks and the school's respective entrance exams were in 3 to 4, so they had time. With classes ending for the day, Izuku and Taku decided to hang out for a while before he heads out on patrol. So have you chosen a school yet, Izu? I'm not entirely sure, but I'm leaning towards Sakai High. It's got a good, pretty well-rounded school. You? Meh, I'll just go wherever you go. I'll be fine wherever I go. I just hope that there's a lot of beautiful girls wherever I go, he said with a sly grin. Izuku lightly chuckled to himself and smiled at his friend. That's just like you. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. How are those new upgrades working for you? They came in handy the other day, right? He asked excitedly and curious to see how they went. They were perfect, Taku. They were exactly what I needed and they made the job so much easier. I knew where to go and could swim deep and fast enough, but the new lenses really helped me see, he said excitedly. 3 days ago he had stopped in drug deal and through some interrogating and hacking into one of the dealers' phones with his hero phone to trace a call, he was able to find their base and take down all the dealers, only to find out their shipment had already gone out and was resting in a submarine somewhere in Suruga Bay. The smugglers were waiting for a customer to arrive the next day, after which they'll move up the coast to meet their other buyers. He called in the dealers the hideout for the cops to come pick them up. It was already dark and he quite literally ran to Suruga Bay. He knew where the drop was going to be and dove into the water. He could hold his breath for a long time, and by using a technique he dubbed Blue Walk, a combination of skywalk underwater and freestyle swimming, he was able to soar through the water far faster than any torpedo or fish. The issue was after combing the area for over 40 minutes and forgetting which way is up twice, he decided to get out of the water. His lenses didn't help him see at all, even with lighting, and his scanners couldn't make out what was clearly in front of him. He didn't even know if he got close to the sub. Fortunately, due to a previous upgrade, Taku can speak directly into one's cowl and see what he sees from the supercomputer in the lab and from his own laptop supercomputer. He lets one know that he's on it, and the next day he added new lenses to his cowl that worked like goggles, allowing him to see perfectly on land and underwater. This allowed him to find the sub about 500 meters down, and while he could have pushed it back to the surface, he decided to wait for the buyers to show up. He easily knocked them out after they called the smugglers to come up. The moment they opened the hatch, he jumped in and swiftly beat them down. He called the police to clean up and left. Glad everything worked out. So happy to be a helpful sidekick, he said with glee. We're a team, Taku. Your gear has really made most of my jobs way easier, he said, completely honest. Thanks, man. There was a pause before he spoke again. Not to sound weird, but I love seeing you in action, bro, he said, excitedly. I'm just living my dream. I'm glad you enjoy the show. Better than live television. Taku chuckled. The two friends continued to walk together, not really heading anywhere, just talking. Ever since Izuku became one, they hadn't had much direct contact outside of school. Even though Taku watches through his lenses and talks to him while he is working, it's not the same as being face to face. The two decided to head to their favorite cafe in town, the White Fox, and grab a bite. Upon entering the place, they are welcomed by Nanomi Kaibara, the very first person Izuku ever saved. After that incident with the serial stabber, Izuku was welcome here anytime, and the place was so good that he kept coming back to the point he became her best customer. Hey Midoriya, Fujiwara, welcome, the usual. the brown-haired woman asked with a smile as they entered. "Yes, ma'am," the boys said in unison. Taking a seat in their usual booth, one of the waiters brings Izuku a soda and soda water for Taku. Taku decided to bring up a subject Izuku had been dwelling on the past few days. "So the festival's coming up. You gonna invite Yaoyorozu?" The greenette lowered his eyes with a small smile. "Yes, actually I was." Taku raised an eyebrow as his sly grin only grew. "Oh really? I was expecting you to procrastinate and I'd have to give you a push. Nah, not this time. I'm gonna ask Momo to come to the festival with me. I don't want to jinx it, but maybe this will lead to something more between us," Izuku said with hopeful confidence. He thought back to the winter break where he went back to living and training at the dojo. It was even better as Michiko allowed Momo to live there too. The two became even closer during this time. This time around only 10 students came to live at the dojo with Izuku, Momo and one other being the oldest. With the intense training schedule that came with living at the dojo, the days were brutal on everyone that wasn't Izuku and one more. He more or less became an assistant master during this time as many of the students were training in disciplines he had already learned. So he was able to help everyone improve in their technique. He and Momo sparred almost every day and it amazed him at how even though slightly, she improved every time they did. He showed her around town, bringing her to the cafe, and she even went for a flight with him on Taku's plane. The three became quite the trio during that break. She even saw him in action as one. People in the area were suffering from some kind of poisoning. It turns out it was a man with a quirk that emits a toxic gas from his body. Normally he controls it, but it builds up over time, making him sickly and becomes hard to contain if he doesn't release it. But the gas slips out and poisons people, so he tries to contain it at the cost of himself. One came up with a solution of grabbing the man and jumping high into the air and having him release all of his toxic gas. Upon doing so, one throws a punch so fast his fist catches fire, causing the cloud of gas to ignite and explode. After getting back on the ground, he assured the grateful, crying man that he'll gladly do this again. Momo couldn't help but smile and be proud of this kind of heroism. "Well, I wish you nothing but the best, my friend. I've seen you two together and I think it'll go well. Unlike MY's situation," he said in a sarcastic tone. Izuku raised an eyebrow. "Are you still upset about her friend zoning you? That was 2 years ago, Taku. Who cares how long it was? You know how fine she is. While she wasn't as curvy as she is now, that hurt," he said dramatically. "Well, she still thinks highly of you if that helps," Izuku said, trying to uplift his friend, "with the fact that you're probably going to get with her." "It does not," he stated while pointing a finger at Izuku, who smiled sheepishly. "Oh well, it's in the past," Taku exclaimed, his mood instantly changing. "By the way, I don't know if you've seen this yet, but..." He began searching for something on his phone. "This guy look familiar?" He showed Izuku a mugshot of the same sludge villain he encountered the day he met All Might. Izuku takes the phone and reads the news article saying that he had broken out of prison sometime last night and was loose somewhere in the city. It says in prison for several crimes including robbery, assault and murder. He's clearly very dangerous. If he's still in the city somewhere, I'll find him. A guy like that would definitely creep in the shadows. Knowing that, he should be easy to find. His mind began to analyze all the ways he could catch this villain, and he had to do it fast because in his time as one he learned that a desperate villain is the most dangerous. So if the sludge villain was on the run, then he'll do anything to keep from going back. "Looks like one is back in the news," Taku said, bringing him out of his thoughts. Handing him his phone again, Izuku saw a video of news reporters asking people on the street their opinions about one, the Green Wind Vigilante, one or the Emerald Flash, one as other media outlets called him. The younger people they questioned viewed him as just another hero, while several older adults couldn't condone his actions as there is no difference between vigilantes and villains. The video ended and he just shrugged at the negative judgment, knowing he would convince them all in time. As the two continue talking, Nanomi brings them their usual orders, katsudon for Izuku and yakitori for Taku. They continue to eat and talk until Izuku gets an alert from his phone. It was a text from Keizo asking if he wanted to join him for dinner at his uncle's restaurant in Chinatown. He agreed and went back to eating. After finishing his meal, Izuku decided to talk again. "You got any plans for the rest of the day?" he asked, looking up at his friend. Yeah, actually, I'll be checking in on your action later, but I've got this idea for these capsule containers that can store any item on the go. Taku said excitedly. What do you mean? Izuku asked. Picture this. Being able to keep a car, a house or a plane inside a little capsule and take it with you wherever you go, or maybe a fridge, or a gym bag, or a buffet of food kept nice and warm. When you need it, just press a button on the capsule and throw it and it comes out. It's not too different from how you put on your suit from pressing a button. Izuku's mind began to run through all the ways of how such an invention could drastically improve daily life. Taku, you innovative genius never ceases to amaze me, and you claim you're not smart. He said jokingly. What can I say? Creativity means you gotta push the bounds. He said with a confident smile. The boys were brought out of their jovial vibe when they heard the loud crash that sounded like crushed metal. They ran outside to see that a train on an overpass had been wrapped in metal. It was as if all the metal on the overpass and track was a snake that coiled around the train, and it was squeezing it. And on top of this wrapped-up train was a man with short black hair and demonic yellow eyes wearing a black sleeveless jacket, baggy camouflage jeans and black combat boots. His left arm was dark in color, but his right arm, starting from his forearm, was in the shape of a long, dark sword with pointy spikes sticking out on the edges of the blade. All Might. I know you're in the city. Get out here and fight me, symbol of peace. Or I'll crush this train and everyone in it. Or maybe I should hack up a few of these fools so you know I'm serious. He ended this statement as the spikes on his sword began to move along the blade at a high speed, turning it into a deadly saw. He then swung his sword into the train, cutting into it like a hot blade through butter. Screams could be heard as he pulled his sword out, and the villain smiled. It looks like I missed that time. Wonder if I'll miss a second time? He said with a sinister grin. Izuku and Taku exchanged one look at each other but said nothing as Izuku headed down a nearby alley with Taku standing at the front of it. He got into his costume and jumped high into the air before soaring towards the villain with Skywalk. Back with the villain, he clearly had a short fuse and no patience, which reminded one of someone he knew, continued to scream for All Might to show up. All Might, the villain roared as he made a gripping motion with his left hand and the metal wrapped around the train began to tighten. All Might couldn't make it, you're gonna have to settle for one. Came an unknown voice. The villain looks up to see a green-clad hero flying towards him at high speeds. One? One what? One, dumbass. He really thinks I'm playing, the villain said angry as he thrust his sword at the incoming hero, one outstretched a fist, ready to connect with the deadly saw sword. The moment the two made contact, the sword began to shatter, shrinking lower and lower until one reached his true arm, breaking it completely in the process. The villain roared in pain as he stumbled back and the hero landed on the train. He had no time to recover as in a blur of speed one punched him 3 times in the face, 5 times in the chest and one heavy blow to the gut before finishing him with a kaoloi. The final blow was so strong it knocked the villain unconscious and sent him flying off the overpass, but the hero grabbed him by his leg before he could fall to the ground. He placed the unconscious villain further up the tracks before going to check on the people in the train. Many of the windows were broken and he could see the people inside, giving them a reassuring smile. He got to work bending the metal to free the doors so the people could get out. After freeing the door in the front car, he went in and spoke to the conductor, and it was also good that no one was injured in this section. Alright, it's good that everyone is okay here, we're gonna get you all out. You can still open the doors to the other cars, correct? He asked, turning to the conductor. Yes, I can. The power wasn't that badly damaged. That's good. I'm going to unwrap the train and check on the rest of the passengers. He looked out one of the windows and saw MT Lady coming. He then smiled at the people in the car. And you'll all be on the ground before you know it. He was quickly able to free the train from its metal trap just as several pros had arrived. While normally quick to try and capture him, right now the main objective was helping the people. After going to all of the cars and saw that everyone was okay, he began taking out 2 to 3 people at a time. MT Lady was good at helping people get back on the ground, and the police threw the villain into an ambulance. After all of the people were safe, one began to take his leave, but he was stopped by a woman and her son. The woman was as tall as his own mother with long black hair and blue eyes. Her son was a boy that looked around 7 with scruffy black hair, blue eyes, pointy ears and a thin devil's tail. Wait. Before you go, my son is a fan of yours and he'd really like to meet you. The hero was taken back by this, and though he doesn't do this for fame or praise, it still surprised him that he had a fan. "I have a fan," he stated, raising an eyebrow under his mask. "Yes, you do. You saved me and my son today." He thinks you're cool and wanted to say something. The hero could only smile, lowering himself to the child's level. "Hey, what's your name?" he asked the child with a smile. "My name is Rin Okomura, and thank you for saving me and my mom." The kid was so nervous he almost yelled his thanks. The hero only smiled before putting a soft hand on the nervous child. "You're very welcome, Rin, it wasn't a problem at all," he said, his hero voice oozing with confidence. "Yeah. Because no matter what it is, you got this, right?" The kid perked up, now excited. "That's right," one said, continuing to smile at the boy. However, Rin's expression suddenly changed as if he was now thinking of something unpleasant. "One? Yes, how do you do the things you do? Everyone says you're a bad guy even though you help people. They say you're a villain on TV all the time because you're not a pro, but you do it anyway. How?" The hero had to take in the child's words, actually a bit surprised he would ask such a question, but the look on his face told him that there was more to it. His thoughts were proven right when his mom whispered in his ear about kids calling him a demon because of his quirk, which is called demon. It increases his physical abilities and allows him to conjure blue flames. She also told him of how he beat one of the kids so badly he went to the hospital, and now everyone walks on eggshells around him. Finally getting a clear picture, the hero finally had an answer for the child. "Rin, do you know what it means to be a hero?" The child looked as if he was in thought, but he had no answer. "No," one smiled. "Being a hero means you do what's right because it's the right thing to do. It doesn't matter what quirk you have as long as you help and stand up for those in trouble, not because of what you'll gain but because it's right. Then it doesn't matter what people say. You want to be a hero, don't you, Rin?" he asked, being able to see right through the child. The black-haired boy looked up at the hero with eyes burning with determination. "Yes." One's smile continued to shine. "Well then, pay a visit to Rising Sky Dojo. Your mom told me people call you a demon. Well, the masters of that dojo are the nicest and scariest monsters you'll ever meet. I think they'll like you," he said before turning to the boy's mother, bowing his head and leaping away. "That was a good kid. If all goes well, he'll become a new disciple and a great hero in the future." He soared through the city using Skywalk before getting a call on his hero phone. It was Taku. "Nice job, bro. Not every day I get to see you work in person. I'm just glad I stepped in when I did. That guy was crazy. By the way, did you know I had fans? I suspected it, but I haven't seen any fan clubs online or anything. Did you meet one?" "Yeah, this little boy with a demon quirk. We had a good chat and I think he'll be an awesome hero in the future," he said, excited about Rin's development at the dojo. "Well, if you set the standard, then it can only lead to good things. I gotta go. Keep an eye out for that sludge villain," he said before hanging up, putting his phone back in the pouch on his belt. Taku is a damn good sidekick. He really stays on it. Should he have a code name? Questions for later. Now let's patrol around the city. He patrolled for a half hour with no action and was standing on the roof of a building. While there were days like this where nothing happened or other heroes got to the scene first, he didn't mind wrapping up a little early today since he was having dinner with Keizo at 8. He still had a couple hours, so he figured he'd run it out before heading to the dojo. He was suddenly brought out of his thoughts by the sound of loud, multiple explosions a few blocks away. Using his parkour skills, he rushes to the scene. He makes it to the roof of a building overlooking a crowd of people standing behind 3 pro heroes, Death Arms, and Kamui Woods in front of an alleyway. He overhears someone from the crowd say that a villain has taken a kid hostage. The alley was on fire and he suddenly heard another explosion. Looking down the alley, he could see the escaped sludge villain and someone trapped inside his body. To his shock and horror, it was Kakin. The way his body was trapped, it was clear he was suffocating. The pros were just standing there watching, probably because their quirks aren't suited to handle this. But he could see Kakin's face, and the look in his eye was one of pure fear and terror. His eyes desperately called for help. Despite how bad he's been all their lives, right now he needed help. He needed a hero. Launching from the building at a speed that broke the sound barrier several times over, he landed between the heroes and the villain in a crouching position. His feet cracked the pavement and all eyes were on him, the look of shock clear on the face of everyone watching him. "Everything will be just fine, because I got this," His hero voice exuded confidence as his eyes narrowed behind his mask. The spectators barely had time to register his words as in a flash he was down the alley in front of the villain. Digging into the sludge, he grabbed Kaken's arm and in one smooth motion pulled him free before jumping back towards the heroes. The ash-blonde teen was crouched over, finally able to take in some air. The hero looked down at him. "You okay, Kai, kid?" He was just able to correct himself as he turned to face the shocked villain who had just lost his captive in the blink of an eye. "How did you do that? When did you do that? Who the hell even are you?" The villain roared. I see you haven't heard of me. Some call me the Green Wind Vigilante, the Emerald Flash of Muzutafu. But you can just call me one," he said, his hero voice confident and proud before lunging at the villain again. "Dragon, Gale." He performed a high spin kick that quickly morphed into a powerful tornado with the head of a dragon with long whiskers. The attack dove down with the villain being consumed by the vortex, making him spatter in all directions. It then shot back into the sky, parting the clouds before dispersing. One stood triumphant, his bright smile confirming complete victory as he turned to face the heroes and the crowd. Then a light rain began to fall. The sudden change in weather seemed to bring the people out of their amazed state. "He changed the weather with one kick," a bystander exclaimed, setting off a loud applause. "Did you record that move he did? He was so fast I could barely follow what was happening." "So that's the vigilante everybody talks about? He's shorter than I imagined. Guess the rumors are true, he does have multiple quirks. He saved that kid right in the nick of time. Think I can get a selfie with him?" "Dude, that was awesome." The police, fire department and news had arrived, and the police were able to collect the sludge that had been scattered throughout the alley and were preparing to take the villain to jail. Meanwhile, Bakugo was being praised for his bravery and for his flashy quirk. And one was having a somewhat conversation with the heroes. He and the heroes were standing away from everyone else, with the three obviously trying to corner him, but he pretended not to notice. "We had that situation under control, you punk." Death Arms almost growled at him. "Come on, you don't have to save face with me, Death Arms. It was obvious that in another minute you would have had a dead kid on your conscience with still no way to beat the villain," he said calmly. This only seemed to make the hero angrier though. "The fact is you can't keep interfering in hero operations like this," Kamui Woods said in an attempt to lecture the hero. "I watched for roughly 30 seconds while you three were watching a kid slowly die. Let me guess you weren't saving him because your quirks were not suited for the job, so you waited for someone who was to show up." The looks on their faces turned to ones of shame. "You don't have to thank me, but don't try to lecture me for being a hero. This isn't a game, I don't do this for fun," he said, his voice risen to almost a yell. "Then why do you do this?" asked MT Lady. "I'm a hero. Plus it's only natural to help those who need it, right? Only if you have the credentials to do so." Death Arms shouted. "Death Arms, please, don't take the fact that someone has credentials, certificate or a license for something that means they are qualified or good at doing what their credentials say they are. Nothing matters more than actions and results." This left all three heroes in shock as they looked at the vigilante. The same vigilante they can't seem to catch, that seems to be on top of everything more than heroes are. Kamui Woods had a question for the hero. "Speaking of, a group of smugglers were busted in Suruga Bay the other day. Several anonymous calls exposed the operation, and the smugglers as well as their buyers were arrested after being found. Would you know anything about that?" "Yes, that was me," he said without a hint of sarcasm. One suddenly felt a strong breeze followed by "I am here," turning around to see the symbol of peace himself standing near the police. "Hey All Might, you're a little late to the show," he said jokingly. "I can see that, but it looks like everything is just fine, so it's okay." However, his eyes narrowed as he stared down the green-clad hero. "I have been wanting to meet you for a while now, one." "Oh, the #1 hero wants to meet me? I'm honored. How can I help you?" he asked with a smile. "I need you to come with me so you can answer all of my questions down at the station." His voice was completely serious, his smile not shifting in the slightest. "Sorry All Might, I'm afraid I can't do that, maybe some other time." His smile also not shifting in the slightest. In a flash of speed the top hero rushed behind him. "You thought you had a choice?" his voice bellowed as he stood behind the illegal hero. "Or that's what he thought, because one was gone. I always have a choice, All Might." came a voice from behind him. Turning around, he was shocked to see the vigilante standing behind him. Even more shocking was that he didn't even see him move. Whoosh! All Might attempted to rush behind him again, this time more focused. "Do you now?" he said, once again looking down at nothing. "That's right," one said, once again behind the hero with his arms crossed. The two began a dance of All Might trying to get behind one, with the illegal hero always being behind the number one hero. They were moving so fast that not a single person could follow what was happening. The three other pros as well as the news team and a few citizens were watching this exchange in awe. After doing this a dozen times, one decided it was time to move on, so when All Might tried to get behind him again, instead of outpacing him again, the hero just jumped away. He was so focused on dealing with All Might that he didn't notice the large purple mass until he crashed into it. To his shock, he sank into the soft, squishy mass before it seemed to push him out. As he was brought back to the light, he gripped the purple mass on pure instinct, able to hold on after the pushing stopped. Looking up, he could see creamy blonde hair and purple eyes making out the face of MT Lady. The look on her face wasn't one of anger, it was more like excitement. Looking to his right, he could see a large purple globe, which dawned on him what he was holding on to. He could practically hear the cameras of her fans taking photos of this compromising position. Taku was gonna strangle him when he saw this, so he chose to just own it. Looking back up at the voluptuous heroine, he gathered his words. Balloons, he said with a wary smile. "What?" the woman asked, still smiling. "Nothing, I just have a friend who is a big fan of your figure." "MT Lady, you're a beautiful, well-built woman, but we've got to stop meeting like this." His wary smile slowly becoming a confident one. "Ah. So that thing last week was an accident?" she asked with a seductive gaze. "Not an unpleasant accident, but an accident nonetheless," he said, remembering that just last week he crashed into and bounced off of her right ass cheek as he was skywalking to an incident, his confidence having finally returned. "Too bad, you should have stuck around." She ended this sentence, attempting to grab the hero. One finally released his grip on her left boob and let himself fall. He then began to use skywalk to dodge her swipes before flying away. He was high above the city looking down for any action, feeling a presence approaching him. Turning around, he saw All Might flying towards him. "Hello again, All Might. Lovely day for a flight. The city looks beautiful from up here, doesn't it?" he said jokingly. "I still have my questions, one, first of which, what is your quirk?" His tone was serious as he reached the same air as one. "Irrelevant question, All Might. Hell, I could ask yours. No one seems to know," he said as he continued to scan the city from above. Looking down, he could see a brown-haired boy around 6 kicking a soccer ball on the sidewalk, then accidentally kicking it in the street. "Don't dodge the question." "How do I dash?" He was cut off by one suddenly kicking the air and flying towards the ground at high speeds. The top pro immediately used his New Hampshire smash to fly after the illegal hero, who was just making it to the ground. Looking down, All Might could see one scooping up a small child and a soccer ball out of the road just before he could be hit by a speeding car that screeched to a stop after the fact. The driver opened his door and one was crouched in front of the child on the sidewalk when All Might touched the ground. "Look, kid, that was really dangerous. It's a good thing I was watching from the sky," he said in a stern voice. "I'm sorry, it was an accident. I was going to play with my friends at the park," the kid said, looking a little ashamed. "Well, it's fine, no one got hurt, but don't play ball on the sidewalk. Save that for when you get to the park next time, okay?" He gave the boy a warm smile. "Okay," the boy said, cheered up and smiling. After playfully ruffling the boy's hair, one sent him on his way. All Might had just finished talking to the driver, and after confirming no harm done and a lecture on speeding and texting while driving, he went on his way as well. "That was a good job, one," the symbol of peace complimented, turning to face the illegal hero, but he was only met by a strong gust of wind as the vigilante took off, leaving All Might frustrated at this missed opportunity. How is he so powerful? How does he have multiple quirks? Why is someone like him a vigilante? He has been responsible for stopping so many incidents, though not on the record. His number of cases show he's outworking most of the heroes in the city. Just who is he? One continued on his patrol until it was time to have dinner with his master. Nothing was as eventful as the metal and sludge villains, but he was able to stop a purse snatcher, a carjacker and some Sunday drivers before he was done for today. Making his way to an area a few blocks from the dojo, he finds a secluded spot to get out of his costume before changing and heading over. It had already gotten dark and no student would normally still be here during this time, however he felt on edge the moment he opened the front door. He scanned the courtyard for any threats as he walked towards the main house, and though he couldn't see them, he knew someone looking to fight was watching him. Out of nowhere he was rushed by two blurs on both sides. One of them threw a punch on his left side while the other threw a kick. Izuku brings up both his arms to block these attacks. His attackers were two figures dressed in black cloaks and both were shorter than he was. Using his elbow he brings down the arm of the puncher and slams a back fist into their chest, sending them flying a good distance away. In that same motion he grabs the kicker's leg before spinning and tossing them away. Taking a moment to think now that he had some distance, something felt off when he hit the puncher. Their chest was really soft and squishy. Looking at both their legs he could see the puncher's figure in their olive green skinny jeans and small feet in their black punker boots. The kicker was wearing black yoga pants and light blue low tops also with small feet, and their figure in the pants was just like the puncher's. This concluded that his attackers were women. The puncher began to stand, putting a hand to their chest as they did so. He couldn't see their face but he could see their mouth, and it was clear they were angry. In a burst of speed the puncher was on him, throwing a barrage of punches. Using his Saikoken, Izuku easily deflected the punches with one arm. The kicker decides to get back in the fight. Rushing behind him he quickly makes an opening and punches the puncher in the gut, sending them back. He does a backflip in time to avoid the sweep that was coming. The kicker recovers and throws a barrage of high kicks as he's coming down. Izuku is able to block all of these, and using one of the kicker's feet as a vault, he flips himself behind them. The kicker rushes at him with a punch, but Izuku is faster and gets behind them again. Before they can recover, Izuku jumps at them with a flying kick, the force so strong it brings the kicker off the ground. Izuku began to spin into a whirlwind kick, landing 5 on the kicker with his final one, sending them crashing into the puncher. The two cloaked figures sprawled over each other as they tried to get back up. The two rushed at him again, unleashing a blur of punches and kicks in perfect coordination. He was able to block, deflect and counter them with his Saikoken, but their attacks were getting faster and stronger. The puncher throws a heavy punch so strong it caused a powerful shockwave when he caught it with his left hand. He then brings up his right forearm to block a kick from the kicker that was so strong the force of it sent him flying to the left. He skids trying to get his bearings. As he does, the puncher punches the ground, cracking it and making it tremble over a wide enough area that he loses his balance. He just has time to register the flash that drops in front of him as he crosses his arms to block a kick that sends him a couple dozen meters in the air. The flash passes him as he rises, looking up to see the kicker flipping to kick him back to the ground. He spins to avoid the kick and the two exchange blows as they fall. The kicker gets a hold of his right arm, spins behind him, locks his arm back and forces his head down, making him see the incoming ground. He spins to throw his left arm back, hitting the kicker's left side and chest hard enough they let go. Izuku flips and throws a kick that connects with the kicker's gut, sending them flying back. He just barely has enough time to land properly. Izuku gets back in his stance as the cloaked attackers regroup. They stare each other down, still very much poised to attack. They all suddenly stopped when a male voice perked up. "You kids done playing? We do have to get going, you know." Izuku looked to his 10 o'clock and could see his master walking towards them. "Glad you could make it, Izuku. I knew how this would go down, but they insisted on doing this cloaked challenger thing," he said jokingly. The two cloaked figures relaxed before one of them spoke. "Cut us some slack, Daddy. I just wanted to see if he's improved, plus I wanted a chance to tease him a little," came the feminine voice of the kicker. The moment Izuku heard the voice and word Daddy, he knew exactly who this was. They hadn't seen each other since winter break. Kyuki, smiling under their cloak before throwing it off to reveal Kyuki Tabihara, Keizo's daughter and only child. She was a pretty girl of average height with black hair that was styled in half-up half-down space buns. She had teal eyes, and just like her aunt she had a curvy, mature body with big boobs. She was also wearing a light blue sleeveless top. "Been a while, huh, Izuku?" she asked with a seductive look, clearly excited to see the boy. He gave a sly grin in response. "It hasn't been that long. Who's your friend?" The other figure took off their cloak to reveal the form of another pretty girl. She was the same height as Kyuki with a body just as curvy. She had short, wavy, ash blonde hair. She was wearing a black tube top and she was currently scowling at him with her arms crossed under her ample breasts. "Hi, I'm Sakio Kodo. she said, however her scowl didn't waver. Izuku Midoriya, nice to meet you, what's with the look? He asked, genuinely curious and slightly scared. She didn't respond, but Kyuki threw her arm around the girl to ease the tension. Oh, don't mind it, Izuku, she's just mad because you popped her in the tits a minute ago. She joked. His face suddenly grew a small shade of pink as he thought twice in one day. Well, Okoto, I'm sorry for that truly, but you two did attack me so. Her scowl only deepened. Touch me like that again and I'll end you. Noted. He said more sarcastically than reluctantly. Kyuki, with her arm still around Saki trying to ease the tension, massaged the girl's left cheek with her right hand. Relax, Saki, he hit my side boob a minute ago and I'm not complaining. Don't let her put you off too much, Izuku. Saki may seem like a savage bear at first, but once you get to know her you'll see she's a big ol' teddy bear, she said in a cute voice, annoying Saki and making her shove her off. Kyuki only giggled at this. What brings you two here anyway? Just visiting. More like getting acquainted. I'll be living with Daddy and Auntie through high school, Saki too if all goes well. Kyuki said in a chipper tone. Really? What school do you plan on going to? We plan on going to Sakai High. Me too. Izuku said excitedly. The entrance exams are in 3 weeks, so let's get out there and kill it. Kyuki exclaimed excitedly. You'll have plenty of time to talk about it over dinner. Let's go, kids. Keizo stated before they all headed to the restaurant for an amazing Chinese-style dinner. Hey Kyuki. You said that you'll be living at the dojo through high school. We usually only see you during breaks and holidays around here. Is your mom okay with this? It took a bit of convincing, but Mama finally relented and said yes. I've only lived with her and always wanted to come stay with Daddy and Auntie, so better late than never. She said excitedly. Yes, this has been a long time coming. I'm just glad it wasn't too much of a fight to make it happen. Keizo chimed in. Keizo and Kyuki's mom divorced when she was 5 and her mom took her back to her hometown of Okinawa City where her family runs their own dojo. Keizo never went a month without seeing her, visiting whenever he could, and they stayed in touch constantly via phone calls or video chat. Whenever Kyuki was out of school she would always spend the break with her father and her aunt, asking to live with them on multiple occasions only for her mom to say no. Keizo doesn't have a friendly relationship with his ex-wife, but they are relatively good at co-parenting. His daughter even once jokingly applauded him for being the one to file for divorce. Hey Okoto, you'll be living at the dojo too, right? How long have you two known each other? Izuku asked. The blonde-haired girl turned to him with a less angry expression. It's been about 5 years now. We've been classmates since forever, so we were always sort of friends. Then I became a student at her family's dojo and we became real friends. I wanted to go to school on the mainland and the dojo is close enough to the school I want to go to. We also have plenty of space, so I didn't see the harm in letting her come too. Keizo said with a smile. Well, things will certainly be interesting with you two around. It would be really good if we were classmates. Izuku said with an enthusiastic smile. Let's hope it goes down that way. Joy was evident in Kyuki's eyes as she said this. With a look that didn't go unnoticed by her father. The way his daughter was looking at his top disciple made Keizo remember the talk he had with or the warning he received from his ex-wife about their daughter. Of course Izuku is like a son to him, but there is no stopping prepubescent desires. His daughter was a strong, smart, immensely talented girl who from day one he raised to know what she wants, know how she feels, and to be able to articulate it. He would rather her not rush these things, but if she was going to choose anyone he's glad it was Izuku. He would have to have a talk with him soon and just hope everything fares well. That's it for today's episode of Chronos. We hope you enjoyed part 2 of our exploration of the What If Deku Became Saitama universe. If you want to see more what if scenarios or have any suggestions for future content, be sure to leave a comment below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to stay up to date on all our latest videos. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time on Chronos.